A magnetic voice. How to talk so that people want to listen. Written by Colt V. Blackwell. Published by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Introduction. The power of voice. Imagine standing in a crowded room. The constant buzz of conversation fills the air. Then someone begins to speak, and something extraordinary happens. The room falls silent. Everyone leans in, drawn by an invisible force. That speaker possesses something we all hunger for. A magnetic voice. This isn't just about being loud or having perfect pitch. It's about developing a voice that commands attention, builds trust, and moves people to action. Whether you're speaking to one person or 1,000, the principles you'll discover in this audiobook will transform how you communicate and how the world responds to you. Let me share something personal. Years ago, I watched a brilliant scientist present groundbreaking research to a room full of potential investors. His ideas were revolutionary, but his voice was thin, uncertain, filled with unconscious patterns that undermined his message. The room's energy drained with each word. Millions in potential funding slipped away, not because of his content, but because of his delivery. 3 months later, after implementing the very techniques you're about to learn, he gave the same presentation. The difference? Magnetic. The room was electrified, the funding secured. The only thing that changed was how he used his voice. This isn't just about public speaking. When you master your voice, you'll discover that your children actually listen when you speak, not just hearing your words, but truly absorbing your guidance. You'll find your ideas being taken seriously in meetings, as colleagues lean forward with genuine interest rather than polite tolerance. The relationships in your personal life will deepen as your voice creates authentic connection, carrying emotional truth alongside your words. People will naturally trust your authority, not because you demand it, but because your voice conveys a centered confidence that bypasses their skepticism. And perhaps most remarkably, you'll develop a presence that commands respect without requiring you to raise your volume or dominate the conversation. Your voice itself will create the space for impact. You already own the most powerful communication tool ever created. It's the instrument that can start wars or whisper, "I love you." It can close million-dollar deals or comfort a crying child. Yet most of us use only a fraction of our voice's true potential. In this audiobook, you'll embark on a comprehensive journey through the landscape of magnetic speech. You'll discover the 7 deadly sins of speaking, those unconscious habits that sabotage your impact before you've even finished your first sentence, and learn precise techniques to transform these patterns. You'll master the HAIL framework for magnetic communication, a revolutionary approach that balances honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love to create speech that truly resonates. We'll open the hidden tools in your vocal toolbox, exploring the physical and psychological dimensions that most speakers never even consider. Through practical exercises designed by voice coaches to the world's most influential speakers, you'll transform your voice from ordinary to extraordinary. You'll gain access to advanced techniques used by world-class speakers who command thousands of dollars for their presentations. We'll dive deep into the psychology of listening and being heard, understanding what happens in the listener's mind when your voice enters their awareness. And you'll master the environmental factors that can make or break communication, learning to turn any physical space into an ally for your message. But I must warn you, this journey requires more than just listening. You'll need to participate, practice, and sometimes step out of your comfort zone. I'll ask you to try exercises that might feel strange at first. Trust the process. Every great speaker started exactly where you are now. Are you ready to discover your magnetic voice? Let's begin. Chapter 1. Understanding your instrument. Have you ever thought about what's actually happening when you speak? Most of us take our voice completely for granted. We open our mouths, words come out, and that's that. But your voice isn't just some simple noise-making device. It's an extraordinary instrument, perhaps the most sophisticated instrument on earth. Think about it. A concert pianist has 88 keys. A master violinist has 4 strings and a bow. But you have an instrument of nearly infinite possibility. an instrument that can whisper intimately or fill an auditorium. That can express subtle shades of meaning through tiny shifts in tone. That can literally change how other people feel. And yet, most of us never open the manual. We never learn to play the instrument we were born with. That changes today. Before we dive into techniques and exercises, let's understand what we're really working with. Your voice isn't just your vocal cords, it's a complex system involving your entire body, mind, and spirit. Picture a grand piano. The strings create the sound, but what makes a piano magnificent? It's the entire instrument, the wood, the shape, the resonance chamber that creates the music. Your voice works the same way. Your vocal cords vibrate, but it's your breath, your posture, your facial muscles, even the spaces within your head and chest that create your unique sound. Irresistible. The science of sound. Here's something fascinating. When you speak, your breath passes through your vocal cords, causing them to vibrate. This creates sound waves that travel through the air, enter someone else's ears, and, this is the miraculous part, actually change their brain chemistry. Think about that for a moment. Your voice literally has the power to alter another person's physical state. But here's what most people don't realize. Your voice has multiple dimensions, each contributing to its overall impact. Let me open your vocal toolbox and show you what's inside. Your voice operates through different registers, functioning much like an elevator that moves between floors of a building. At the top floor resides your head voice, those light, higher-pitched sounds that resonate primarily in your facial cavities. This creates brightness and clarity that conveys enthusiasm, openness, and gentleness. The head voice works beautifully when you're telling stories to children, expressing joy or creating a sense of possibility. One floor down, you'll find your middle voice, the everyday conversational range where most of us naturally speak. This register creates connection and relatability, making it perfect for building rapport in casual interactions. At the lowest floor dwells your chest voice, those deep, authoritative tones that resonate powerfully in your chest cavity, conveying gravitas, certainty, and leadership. When you need your words to carry weight, or when you're establishing boundaries, your chest voice becomes an invaluable ally. Each register serves a distinct purpose in your communication. When you want to convey authority during an important presentation, your chest voice adds weight to your words, creating a foundation of trustworthiness. When expressing care or compassion, perhaps while comforting someone in distress, the higher registers create that sense of emotional connection and nurturing presence. The true mastery isn't about staying in one register, but rather developing the flexibility to move between them with purpose. Try this experiential exercise right now. Place your hand flat against your chest and say the word boom in the lowest, deepest voice you can muster. Feel that powerful vibration beneath your palm? That resonance is your chest voice at work. Now, keeping your hand in place, say the word ping in a high, light voice. Notice how the vibration shifts dramatically, moving upward so that you barely feel it in your chest. That represents your journey into head voice, where the resonance happens in the spaces above your throat rather than below it. The texture of your voice, its unique color and quality, is what we call timbre. This distinctive aspect of sound is what allows you to recognize a friend's voice on the phone before they identify themselves. Some voices naturally emanate rich warmth, like hot chocolate for the ears on a cold winter day. They wrap around you with a comforting quality that invites you to listen. Others possess a bright, clear quality reminiscent of a bell, precise, attention-grabbing, and impossible to ignore. While you're born with certain timbral qualities based on your physical structure, you can significantly enhance your timbre through proper technique and conscious awareness. Think about voices you love listening to. Consider James Earl Jones with his incredibly deep, resonant timbre that seems to emerge from the depths of the earth itself. Or Meryl Streep, whose clear, precise tones convey both intelligence and emotional depth simultaneously. Each possesses a distinctive sound that's instantly recognizable, a vocal fingerprint as unique as their physical appearance. Through deliberate practice, you can develop a timbre that authentically represents your essence while maximizing its impact. The music in your speech, the rises and falls, the rhythm and flow, is what we call prosody. Without proper prosody, we get monotone delivery, the death of engagement for any audience. Think of prosody as the fundamental difference between playing individual notes on a piano versus creating a beautiful melody that brings tears to the listener's eyes. It's what makes your voice dance across the listener's consciousness, creating emotional peaks and valleys that maintain interest and emphasize your most important points. Listen carefully to great storytellers the next time you have the opportunity. Notice how their voice rises with excitement as they approach the climax of a story, how it drops to an intimate whisper during suspenseful moments, creating an irresistible pull that makes listeners lean in. Observe how they pause deliberately before revelations, creating a moment of anticipation that makes the payoff all the more satisfying. That orchestration of vocal elements isn't accidental. It's prosody at work, and it's a skill you can develop with awareness and practice. Your rate of speech functions exactly like a car's accelerator, giving you precise control over the energy and impact of your message. When you speak too quickly, racing through important information, listeners simply can't keep up and comprehension plummets, regardless of how brilliant your content might be. When you speak too slowly, dragging out your delivery beyond what the content merits, listeners grow impatient and mentally check out even while physically present. But when you find that sweet spot, the pace that perfectly matches your content and the audience's needs, you create a seamless experience where listeners stay with you every step of the journey. Most adults speak at approximately 150 words per minute during normal conversation, though this varies somewhat by region and cultural background. The magic happens when you understand that varying your pace, speeding up during exciting narrative sections, then deliberately slowing down for emphasis on key points, creates dynamic, engaging speech that respects the natural rhythms of human attention. This conscious manipulation of pace becomes one of the most powerful tools in your communication arsenal. Finally, let's consider volume, an aspect of speech that extends far beyond simply being loud or soft. Volume is fundamentally about creating strategic contrast that guides your listener's attention exactly where you want it to go. A well-timed whisper can create more impact than a sustained shout, drawing listeners into an intimate space of shared secrets and meaningful revelations. Think of volume as analogous to light and shadow in a masterful painting. The contrast between bright highlights and deep shadows creates depth and visual interest that a flatly lit image could never achieve. Have you ever noticed how someone deliberately lowering their voice during a conversation instantly makes you lean in and listen more attentively? That's strategic volume at work. The unexpected shift creates a pattern interrupt that recaptures wandering attention and signals. What I'm saying right now deserves special focus. When you master the full spectrum of volume, from intimate whisper to resonant projection, you gain the ability to create acoustic landscapes that maintain interest and emphasize precisely what matters most in your message. The mind-voice connection. Here's something remarkable that changed how I think about voice. Your voice doesn't just express your mental state, it can actually change it. When you speak with confidence, you begin to feel more confident. When you speak with calm authority, you become more centered. It's a two-way street between mind and voice. I worked with an executive who struggled with crippling anxiety during presentations. Instead of trying to eliminate the anxiety directly, we focused on her breathing and vocal patterns. By learning to speak from her chest register with measured pace and deliberate prosody, something unexpected happened. Her anxiety began to dissolve. Her voice wasn't just expressing confidence, it was creating it. This phenomenon is backed by research. Studies show that adopting powerful vocal patterns actually changes your hormone levels, increasing testosterone, confidence, and reducing cortisol, stress. Your voice isn't just projecting your internal state, it's helping create it. Common misconceptions. Before we go further, let's clear up some myths about voice. You're born with your voice and can't change it. False. While your basic vocal apparatus is genetic, how you use it is highly trainable. Just as an athlete can transform their physical performance, you can enhance every aspect of your voice through conscious practice. Deep voices are always better. False. Depth can convey authority, but clarity, warmth, and expressiveness matter more than depth. Some of history's most compelling speakers had higher voices, but used them masterfully. Speaking louder means being heard better. False. Clarity, not volume, determines whether you're understood. Often, strategic pauses and precision make more impact than simply turning up the volume. Some people are just naturally good speakers. False. Great speakers are made, not born. What appears as natural talent is usually the result of practice, feedback, and refinement, whether conscious or not. Your voice is trainable, every single aspect of it. The environmental factor. Your voice doesn't exist in a vacuum. It interacts with your environment in crucial ways. Consider the room acoustics, where hard surfaces like glass windows and marble floors create echo and reverberation can muddy your words, while soft surfaces such as carpets and curtains absorb sound waves, creating clarity and intimacy. The background noise forms another critical layer. Mechanical sounds like air conditioning hums, human-generated noise from side conversations, external sounds from traffic or weather, and electronic interruptions from devices all compete with your voice for the listener's attention. The physical configuration of your speaking space dramatically impacts how your voice travels, with the size and shape determining how sound waves disperse. Listener positioning represents another crucial factor, as the distance, angle, and height differences between you and your audience affect how well they receive your message. Even air quality and temperature influence both your vocal apparatus and how sound propagates through space. Understanding these environmental elements helps you adapt your voice for maximum impact in any situation. Practical exercise, finding your baseline. Before we move forward, let's establish your current vocal state. Try this simple exercise right now. 1. Stand in front of a mirror. Yes, actually do this. 2. Take 3 deep breaths, feeling your ribs expand. 3. Say the following sentence. My voice has the power to change the world. Notice 4. Where do you feel the vibration? Head, throat, or chest? What happens to your posture as you speak? How do your facial expressions change? What emotions arise as you say these words? This is your starting point. In the coming chapters, we'll build on this foundation, adding new techniques and understanding to transform your voice into a magnetic instrument of influence and connection. Remember, every great speaker you've ever heard started exactly where you are now. The difference isn't talent, it's technique and practice. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen. By Listen Grow Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 2. The 7 Deadly Sins of Speaking. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to repel attention the moment they open their mouths? It's rarely about their voice quality. It's about what they do with it. In this chapter, we'll explore the 7 deadly sins of speaking, habits that can turn even the most beautiful voice into a source of disconnection. The power of awareness. Before we dive in, let me share a story. I once worked with a CEO whose team was falling apart. Despite his impressive credentials and powerful voice, his words created walls instead of bridges. During our first session, I recorded his communication with his team. When he heard himself later, he was shocked. I sound like a judge passing sentences, he said. He was committing several of these sins without realizing it. Let's explore these 7 patterns that can destroy your impact as a speaker. Chapters 1. The Gossip Trap. Imagine dropping a stone into a pond. The ripples spread outward, affecting everything they touch. Gossip works the same way, but the ripples are toxic. When you speak ill of absent people, you create 2 immediate effects. You poison the well of trust. You teach others that you'll likely gossip about them too. The transformation. Instead of gossip, practice purposeful presence, speaking only about what's relevant and constructive to the current conversation and the people present. 2. The judgment zone. We've all experienced it, that feeling of being sized up, measured, and found wanting. Judgmental speech creates an invisible wall between speaker and listener. It's like trying to have a conversation through a pane of glass. You can see each other, but there's no real connection. Signs you're in the judgment zone. Using absolutes, always, never. Making character assessments. Comparing people to idealized standards. Offering unsolicited criticism. The transformation. Replace judgment with curiosity. Instead of, you always miss deadlines, try, I'm curious about what challenges you're facing with the timeline. 3. The negativity spiral. Negativity in speech is like a black hole. It sucks the energy out of any conversation. It's not just about the words you choose, it's about the reality you create through your speech. A client once told me about her mother, who could turn any topic into a complaint. Beautiful day today. Yes, but it won't last. I got a promotion. Oh, more stress for you. The transformation. Practice the yes and technique from improvisation theatre. Acknowledge reality while building toward possibility. 4. The complaint carousel. Complaining is different from constructive criticism. It's repetitive, focuses on problems without solutions, and drains energy from both speaker and listener. It's like being on a carousel. Lots of motion, but you're not going anywhere. The 3 types of complainers. The chronic complainer, habitual. The venting complainer, emotional release. The instrumental complainer, seeking solutions. The transformation. Transform complaints into requests or actions. Instead of, this room is always too cold, try, I'll speak with facilities about adjusting the temperature. 5. The excuse engine. Excuses are like credit cards, convenient in the moment, but they come with heavy interest. Every time you make an excuse, you diminish your perceived reliability, weaken your actual accountability, train others not to count on you, reduce your own sense of agency. The transformation. Replace excuses with ownership statements. Instead of, traffic made me late, try, I didn't plan enough time for the commute. 6. The exaggeration inflation. In a world of constant hyperbole, where everything is awesome, incredible, or the worst ever, we've created language inflation. When everything is extraordinary, nothing is. This habit reduces your credibility, dulls the impact of your truly important messages, creates listener fatigue. The transformation. Practice precise speech. Use words that exactly match the scale of what you're describing. Save powerful descriptors for truly powerful moments. 7. The dogma dilemma. Dogmatic speech, the rigid presentation of opinions as facts, is like verbal concrete. Once it sets, there's no room for dialogue, growth, or connection. It's characterized by absolute statements, dismissal of other perspectives, lack of evidence-based reasoning, resistance to questions. The transformation. Embrace the power of I think, in my experience, and I could be wrong, but these phrases create space for dialogue and demonstrate intellectual humility. Mansius, practical exercise. The 7-day speech awareness challenge. For the next week, focus on one sin each day. Day 1, catch yourself before gossiping. Day 2, notice judgmental thoughts before they become words. Day 3, count negative statements and transform them. Day 4, turn complaints into action steps. Day 5, replace excuses with ownership. Day 6, use precise language without exaggeration. Day 7, Present opinions as opinions, not facts. Keep a small notebook or use your phone to track instances of each habit. The awareness alone will begin to transform your speech. The path forward. Remember the CEO from the beginning of this chapter? After becoming aware of these patterns, he made a conscious effort to change. Within 3 months, his team's engagement scores improved by 40%. His voice hadn't changed, but how he used it had transformed completely. As we move forward, we'll explore the positive foundations of magnetic speech, the Hale principles that will replace these destructive patterns with powerful connecting communication. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen, by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 3, The Hale Framework. After understanding your instrument and learning what to avoid, it's time to explore the positive foundations of magnetic speech. I call this the Hale Framework, 4 cornerstone principles that, when combined, create speech that truly connects, influences, and inspires. Why Hale? Beyond its memorable acronym, to hail means to greet or acclaim enthusiastically. When you master these 4 elements, that's exactly how your words will be received, with enthusiasm and genuine engagement. The power of integration. Let me share a transformation I witnessed. Maria, a senior executive, came to me struggling with team trust. Her voice was technically perfect. She'd had years of training, but something was missing. As we explored the Hale framework, she discovered that while her speech was honest, it lacked authenticity. She was playing a role rather than being herself. The shift in her communication, once she integrated all 4 elements, was remarkable. Let's explore why. H. Honesty, the foundation of trust. Honesty in speech goes far beyond simply not telling lies. It encompasses clear communication without hidden agendas or manipulative intentions, where your words and their meaning align perfectly without subtext or misdirection. It requires transparent sharing of relevant information, even when that information might be uncomfortable or inconvenient to reveal. True honesty includes the courage to admit mistakes and uncertainties, acknowledging the limits of your knowledge rather than feigning expertise. Perhaps most importantly, it demands complete alignment between your words and reality, ensuring that what you say accurately reflects what is true, both externally and internally. But here's the crucial insight. Honesty without the other elements can be destructive. Raw honesty needs to be tempered with love, supported by integrity, and expressed authentically. Otherwise, it can become a weapon rather than a tool for connection. In practical application, honesty means replacing vague maybes with clear yes or no answers when you already know your position, being decisive rather than hiding behind ambiguity. It means acknowledging uncertainty when it genuinely exists, rather than pretending to certainty you don't possess. Honest communication involves sharing relevant information that others need to know, even when that sharing might be uncomfortable or expose vulnerability. And perhaps most challenging, it requires expressing difficult truths with care and purpose, finding ways to be honest without being hurtful. A. Authenticity, your unique voice. Authenticity is about standing in your own truth, bringing your whole self to your communication, rather than presenting a carefully curated facade. It means speaking from your genuine experience, drawing on what you've actually lived rather than theoretical knowledge or borrowed wisdom. Authentic speakers use language that feels natural to them, embracing their unique vocabulary and phrasing rather than adopting artificial, professional speak that creates distance. They share their unique perspective, offering the gift of their singular viewpoint rather than saying what they think others want to hear. Perhaps most powerfully, authentic communicators become comfortable with their vocal quirks, those distinctive elements that make their voice uniquely theirs, rather than trying to sound like someone else. The authenticity paradox creates a fascinating challenge. Many people believe being professional means suppressing their authentic voice, adopting a homogenized formal style they think will earn respect. The opposite is true. Authenticity enhances professionalism by building trust and connection. When listeners sense you're being your real self, they relax into the relationship rather than maintaining their guard. Elements of authentic speech include personal stories that illustrate points, creating connection through shared experience rather than abstract concepts. Authentic speakers use natural vocabulary instead of forced formal language, making complex ideas accessible rather than impressive. They allow genuine emotional expression appropriate to the context, neither overplaying nor suppressing their true feelings. And they develop comfort with silence and pauses, allowing thoughts to breathe and land rather than filling every moment with sound out of insecurity. Integrity, being your word. Integrity in speech creates a powerful foundation of trust and reliability. It begins with keeping your promises, ensuring that your commitments, both large and small, are honored consistently. It requires following through on stated intentions so that your words reliably predict your future actions. Integrity demands consistency between words and actions, eliminating the credibility gap that occurs when behavior contradicts verbal claims. And it necessitates alignment between public and private communication, so you never say one thing to someone's face and another behind their back. The 3 levels of integrity represent a progression of mastery. At the basic level, you simply do what you say you'll do, fulfilling explicit commitments and promises. At the professional level, you maintain consistency across all communication, ensuring your message doesn't change depending on the audience. At the advanced level, you proactively address misalignment, stepping forward to acknowledge and correct situations where your actions and words have fallen out of alignment before others even point it out. The most effective integrity builders include making promises carefully and explicitly, clearly stating what you will and won't do rather than allowing assumptions. They track their commitments methodically, ensuring nothing falls through the cracks of memory or competing priorities. They communicate proactively about changes when circumstances make keeping a commitment impossible, and they quickly acknowledge and correct misalignments when they occur, taking responsibility rather than making excuses. Love, the essential tempering force. This isn't about romantic love. It's about genuine care for your listeners and the impact of your words on their well-being. Love in speech means wishing well for your audience, genuinely wanting positive outcomes for them, rather than simply seeking to advance your own agenda. It involves speaking to benefit others, considering how your words might serve their growth, understanding, or happiness. Loving speech carefully considers the impact of your words, recognizing that language has the power to heal or harm, and it creates safety in conversation, establishing an environment where honest exchange can occur without fear of attack, ridicule, or rejection. The power of love in professional settings is often overlooked, but transforms communication in remarkable ways. It transforms criticism into constructive feedback, offering insights for improvement rather than judgment. It turns conflicts into opportunities for growth, seeking mutual understanding rather than victory. Loving communication creates psychological safety in teams, allowing members to take risks, share ideas, and admit mistakes without fear. And ultimately, it builds lasting trust and rapport, creating relationships that withstand challenges and deepen over time. Practical exercise. The HAIL check. Before important communications, run through this quick check to ensure you're embodying all 4 elements of magnetic speech. Begin with honest self-reflection. Ask yourself if you're speaking the full truth as you know it, not just technically accurate statements, but the complete picture. Consider whether you've been clear about what you know with certainty and what remains uncertain, avoiding false confidence that undermines credibility. Examine your motivations carefully to ensure you've removed any hidden agendas that might compromise your message. Next, assess your authenticity by questioning whether this communication genuinely sounds like your real voice, or if you've slipped into formal language that creates distance. Reflect on whether you're sharing from genuine personal experience that grounds your message in reality rather than theory. ask yourself honestly if you feel comfortable with how you're expressing yourself, or if you're contorting your natural communication style to fit an imagined expectation. The integrity dimension requires asking whether you can fully stand behind these words, not just in the moment, but in the days and weeks to come. Consider carefully if you're prepared to follow through on any explicit or implicit commitments your communication creates. Review your previous messages to ensure this communication remains consistent with what you've said before, avoiding contradictions that erode trust. Finally, examine the love element by considering the impact your words will have on others. Will this communication benefit the listeners in some meaningful way, or does it primarily serve your own interests? Have you included the necessary support or context to ensure your message can be received without causing unintended harm? Have you created conditions where your message can be heard without triggering defensive responses? This comprehensive check takes only a moment once you've practiced it, but dramatically improves the quality and impact of your communication by ensuring all 4 dimensions of magnetic speech are present and balanced. Advanced integration, the HAIL matrix. Sometimes these elements seem to conflict. For example, honesty versus love, when truth might hurt. Authenticity versus integrity, when feelings conflict with commitments. Love versus authenticity, when care requires stepping out of comfort zones. The solution is to see these elements as complementary, not competing. Here's how. 1. Start with love as the container. 2. Add honesty as the content. 3. Express it through authenticity. 4. Support it with integrity. Real-world application. Let's see how this works in a challenging situation. Imagine you need to give difficult feedback to a team member. Without HAIL, your presentation skills need work. You're not engaging the audience. With HAIL, I care about your success, love, and I've noticed some specific challenges with audience engagement, honesty. From my own experience with similar challenges, authenticity, I'd like to work with you on this over the next few weeks. Integrity. The path to mastery. Implementing the HAIL framework takes practice. Start with one element that needs the most work. If you tend to sugarcoat, focus on honesty. If you feel fake, work on authenticity. If you often overcommit, strengthen integrity. If you're too harsh, develop love. Remember, the goal isn't perfection in all areas at once. It's about continuous improvement and integration. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen, by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Aegis. Chapter 4, The Technical Mastery. Now that we've built a strong foundation with the HAIL framework, it's time to open your vocal toolbox and master the technical elements that will make your voice truly magnetic. Think of what we've learned so far as the soul of your communication. Now we'll develop its body. Jabredis, the warm-up revolution. Let me share something that changed my perspective on voice training. I was working with a professional singer who had lost her confidence after a vocal injury. She told me, "People think singing is about the performance. It's not. It's about the preparation. The same is true for speaking." The 6-step warm-up sequence. Before any important speaking engagement, run through these 6 exercises. They might feel strange at first, but they're based on centuries of vocal training wisdom. 1. The liberating sigh. Stand tall, arms raised. Take a deep breath in. Release with a satisfying. Feel the tension leave your body. Repeat 3 times. 2. The lip buzz. Create a motorboat sound with your lips. Start low, then glide higher. Return to low. This releases lip tension and warms up resonance. 3. The energy roll. Make a continuous brrr sound. Let your lips tingle. Feel the vibration in your face. This activates facial resonators. 4. The tongue stretch. Exaggerated la-la-la sequence. Move from low to high notes. Keep your jaw relaxed. This improves articulation. 5. The Scottish roll. Roll your R's. Breathe. If you can't roll your R's, try th-th-th-th. This activates the tip of your tongue. Think of it as champagne for the tongue. 6. The siren call. Start with we, high. Glide down to AW, low. Smooth transition between sounds. This connects head and chest voice. The technical foundations. 1. Register mastery. Your voice possesses 3 main registers, each with distinctive qualities and purposes in your communication. Your head voice creates those light, higher-pitched sounds that convey enthusiasm, openness, and gentleness. Perfect for expressing joy, possibility, or nurturing energy. Your middle voice forms your conversational range where most everyday communication happens, creating connection and relatability through its familiar, approachable quality. Your chest voice produces those deep, authoritative tones that convey gravitas, certainty, and leadership. Invaluable when establishing boundaries, delivering important news, or speaking with authority on crucial matters. Exercise. The elevator will help you develop seamless movement between these registers, giving you access to your full vocal range. Begin by grounding yourself with a deep breath, then voice the word boom in your lowest, most resonant chest voice, feeling the vibration primarily in your chest cavity. From this foundation, imagine your voice as an elevator, gradually rising through a building, smoothly gliding upward until you reach your head voice, finishing with a bright ping sound that resonates primarily in your facial cavities. Then reverse the journey, descending smoothly back to your chest voice without any abrupt shifts or breaks. Practice this flowing movement regularly, focusing on eliminating any gear changes between registers. With consistent practice, you'll develop a seamless instrument capable of moving anywhere within your range while maintaining consistency and power. 2. Timbre training. Your voice's color and texture, its distinctive tonal quality, can be significantly enhanced by understanding and activating your resonance rooms. Each resonance space in your vocal apparatus creates a specific sound quality, and by learning to direct your sound into these spaces, you gain remarkable control over your vocal impact. Your nasal cavity produces those bright, focused sounds that cut through background noise and command attention, particularly useful when clarity is paramount. Your mouth cavity creates clear, articulate sounds with excellent intelligibility, the foundation of well-understood speech in any context. Your chest cavity generates those warm, rich tones that convey trustworthiness and depth, creating connection through their full-bodied resonance. Exercise. The sound painting helps you develop conscious control of these resonant spaces, allowing you to blend them like a painter mixes colors. Begin by saying Ming with focused attention on directing the sound through your nasal passages, feeling the vibration in your nose and sinuses. This nasal resonance adds brightness and projection. Then transition to Ah, feeling the sound resonate primarily in your open mouth cavity, creating clear, intelligible tones vital for precise articulation. Next, voice a rich O, directing the sound into your chest cavity where it creates that warm, authoritative quality that builds trust. Once you can access each resonance independently, practice blending them in different combinations, perhaps combining chest and mouth resonance for warm clarity, or mouth and nasal resonance for bright intelligibility. With practice, you'll develop a diverse timbral palette that you can deploy strategically for different communication contexts. 3. Prosody power. Developing your vocal variety is essential for maintaining listener engagement and emphasizing your most important points. The music in your speech comes from mastering 5 key elements of prosody that transform monotonous delivery into captivating communication. Pitch variation, those rises and falls in the musical height of your voice, creates emotional contours that signal questions, excitement, conclusion, or contemplation. Volume changes add dynamic contrast, allowing you to draw listeners closer with an intimate near whisper or command the room with projected emphasis. Speed adjustments create rhythm and pace, quickening to convey excitement or urgency, slowing to emphasize importance or complexity. Emphasis placement determines which words stand out from the surrounding text, guiding your listener to the exact points you want them to remember. Strategic pauses create space for impact, giving important ideas room to land while building anticipation for what comes next. Exercise. The story, Colors provides a practical way to develop prosodic flexibility by taking a simple, neutral sentence and transforming it through vocal variety. Take the sentence, "I went to the store today," and practice saying it first as a genuine question, lifting your pitch at the end while expressing curiosity with your tone. Then transform it into an exciting announcement, raising your overall pitch, increasing your volume, and quickening your pace to convey enthusiasm. Next, deliver it as a secretive whisper, drastically reducing your volume while slowing your pace and compressing your pitch range to create intimacy and exclusivity. Continue by expressing it as a completely boring statement, flattening your prosody with minimal pitch variation, consistent volume, and steady pace. Finally, deliver it as an amazing discovery, using dramatic pauses, extreme pitch variation, and notable volume dynamics to suggest this simple trip held extraordinary significance. This exercise develops your prosodic range while demonstrating how the same words can convey dramatically different meanings through vocal music alone. Use a pause. 4. Pace perfection. Mastering the 3 fundamental speeds of speech gives you precise control over the energy and impact of your message. Allegro, the musical term for a brisk, lively tempo, creates excitement and forward momentum in your speech, perfect for narrating action sequences, expressing enthusiasm, or moving efficiently through less important information. Moderato represents your conversational pace, the comfortable middle ground where most effective communication happens, allowing listeners to absorb information without feeling either rushed or impatient. Adagio, the slow, thoughtful pace, creates emphasis and gravitas, giving weight to your most important points while allowing complex ideas the space they need to be processed and understood. Exercise. The pace ladder helps you develop conscious control over your speaking rate while maintaining clarity at any speed. Begin by selecting a paragraph of moderate complexity and reading it aloud at your normal speaking rate, counting the words per minute to establish your baseline. Then read the same paragraph 20% faster, maintaining articulation clarity while injecting energy and momentum into your delivery. This increased pace creates excitement and can reinvigorate wandering attention. Finally, read the paragraph 20% slower than your normal rate, giving full weight to each word and allowing important concepts the space they need to land with impact. Practice transitioning smoothly between these 3 paces within a single reading, using faster sections for background information and slowing significantly for key points. With practice, you'll develop an intuitive sense for the optimal pace in any communication context, whether you're delivering urgent news, explaining complex concepts, or inspiring with visionary ideas. 5. Volume virtuosity. Developing your dynamic range gives you powerful control over audience attention and emotional impact. The volume spectrum extends from the intimate whisper, that hushed delivery that creates immediate intimacy and draws listeners closer, both physically and psychologically, to soft, confidential speech, slightly louder than a whisper, but still creating a sense of exclusivity and shared secrets. Your conversational volume forms the midpoint of this spectrum, the comfortable baseline that neither strains to hear nor feels imposing. Projected speech carries further, fills larger spaces, and conveys confidence and authority without aggression. At the top of your range, full power projection commands attention in challenging acoustic environments and signals the utmost importance of your message. Exercise. The volume journey helps you develop smooth control across your entire dynamic range while maintaining clarity at every level. Select a short story or extended example that has natural emotional progression. Begin telling this story at a whisper, drawing your listeners in with that intimate quality that creates immediate attention. Gradually build your volume as the narrative develops, moving through confidential tones into conversational volume as the story progresses. Continue increasing to projected voice as you approach the climax, perhaps reaching full power at the story's most important moment. Then skillfully decrease your volume as you conclude, perhaps returning all the way to a whisper for the final insight. Throughout this journey, maintain perfect clarity at every volume level, keeping your articulation precise even at the extremes. This exercise trains not just your physical capacity for volume variation, but your artistic judgment about when and how to deploy different volumes for maximum impact. Advanced technical applications. The power position. Your body affects your voice. The power position, feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, spine aligned, shoulders relaxed, head level, chest open. 2. Breath support. The 3-part breath. Low belly expansion. Mid-rib cage widening. Upper chest lift. Practice this sequence lying down first. 3. Resonance mapping. Locate your resonance points. Touch your chest while saying O. Feel nose bridge for NG. Notice mask area for AEA. Learn to direct sound to these areas. Practical integration. The 10-minute daily practice. 1. 2 minutes. Warm-up sequence. 2 minutes. Register transitions. 3. 2 minutes. Prosody play. 4. 2 minutes. Pace variations. 5. 2 minutes. Volume control. Real-world application. Consider these scenarios. 1. Important presentation. Warm up thoroughly. Start in chest voice for authority. Use varied prosody to maintain interest. Strategic pauses for impact. Volume dynamics for emphasis. 2. Intimate conversation. Middle register for connection. Warm timbre, measured pace, gentle volume, natural prosody. 3. Crisis communication. Chest voice for stability, clear measured pace. Controlled volume, minimal prosody, strategic pauses. The technical checklist. The 4 important communications. Physical alignment check. Breathing pattern established. Register selection conscious. Pace determined. Volume level chosen. Prosody plan ready. Remember, technical mastery serves emotional connection. These tools should enhance, not override, your authentic voice. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen, by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 5. Environmental Mastery. What if I told you that the most magnetic voice in the world could be rendered ineffective by the wrong environment? Understanding and mastering your speaking environment is just as crucial as mastering your voice itself. The sound environment matrix. Think of your speaking environment as a living ecosystem. Every space has its own acoustic personality, and understanding these elements can make the difference between a message that lands and one that gets lost in the noise. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. A brilliant CEO was giving the most important presentation of her career. Her voice was perfectly trained, her message was clear, but the room was working against her. The hard surfaces created echo. The air conditioning hummed at exactly the wrong frequency, and the space was too large for intimate connection. Despite her expertise, her message struggled to reach her audience effectively. The 5 environmental elements. Let's dive into the first element, acoustic architecture. Think about the surfaces in any room you speak in. Hard surfaces like glass, tile, and concrete create echo that can muddy your words. Soft surfaces, carpets, curtains, upholstered furniture, absorb sound, creating clarity. High ceilings disperse your voice upward, while small, intimate spaces naturally amplify it. Try this quick assessment whenever you enter a new speaking environment. Clap your hands once, sharply, and count the seconds of echo. If the echo lasts less than a second, you're in a space ideal for intimate conversation. 1 to 2 seconds of echo works well for presentations, where a bit of resonance adds authority. But when you hear more than 2 seconds of echo bouncing back, you'll need to adjust your delivery for clarity, speaking more slowly and articulating each word with extra precision. The second element to master is your background soundscape. Every environment contains competing sounds that can mask your message. There's mechanical noise, the hum of air conditioning, the whir of equipment, human noise, side conversations, movements, even breathing, external sounds like traffic or weather, and increasingly, electronic interruptions from phones, computers, and notifications. Your voice needs to rise above this ambient noise. Think of it as a signal-to-noise ratio. For people to comfortably hear you, your voice should be at least 10 decibels louder than the background, about twice as loud as the ambient sound. The sweet spot is 15 to 20 decibels above background noise, but beware of going too far beyond that. When your voice becomes too loud compared to the environment, it can feel aggressive or domineering. The third element is space configuration, how you arrange yourself and your listeners within the physical environment. In intimate conversations, position yourself at a 45-degree angle rather than directly face-to-face, which can feel confrontational. Keep about 3 to 4 feet of distance, close enough for connection, but respecting personal space. Match eye levels when possible, sitting if they're sitting, standing if they're standing. And minimize barriers between you, tables, desks, podiums that create psychological distance. For group presentations, try to position yourself slightly elevated above your audience. It helps establish authority and ensures everyone can see you. Arrange the audience in a semicircle when possible, creating a sense of inclusion while maintaining clear sightlines for everyone. Think strategically about where to place microphones or amplification to ensure even sound distribution. In large venues, you'll need to master multiple speaker positions, moving throughout the space to connect with different sections of your audience. Work with the sound system technicians to ensure distributed coverage. Support your verbal message with visual elements that can be seen from a distance. And create zones for audience interaction, places where you can move to signal a shift from presentation to participation. The fourth element, and one most speakers never consider, is environmental psychology, the hidden factors that affect how receptive your listeners are. Temperature plays a crucial role. If a room is too hot, your audience becomes drowsy and disengaged. Too cold, and they're distracted by their discomfort. The optimal range is between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit, or 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. Lighting dramatically impacts engagement. Natural light creates higher alertness and positive mood. Harsh fluorescent lighting increases tension and eye fatigue. Dim lighting might seem intimate, but it actually reduces attention span and can signal to the brain that it's time to wind down. Where possible, opt for warm, even lighting that illuminates your face without creating harsh shadows. Air quality affects comprehension more than most people realize. Fresh air increases oxygen to the brain, supporting concentration. Stuffy rooms with high carbon dioxide levels measurably reduce cognitive function. If you're speaking for more than 30 minutes, consider scheduling brief ventilation breaks, moments where you pause while fresh air is introduced to the space. The fifth element is technical integration, how you work with technology to enhance rather than distract from your message. If you're using a handheld microphone, hold it about 6 to 8 inches from your mouth. Position it at about a 45-degree angle just below your mouth, not directly in front of it, to avoid distracting pops and breathing sounds. Always test your levels before speaking. What sounds right to you might be too soft or too loud for your audience. And always have a backup plan for when technology inevitably fails. The sound system setup requires careful attention too. Work with technicians to ensure speaker placement provides even coverage throughout your audience. Eliminate feedback possibilities before they occur. Balance volume between your voice and any other audio elements like music or video. And if you're using monitors that allow you to hear yourself, position them so they support your natural speaking style without causing you to change your delivery. Practical solutions for common environments. Let's explore some practical solutions for environments you'll commonly encounter. First, the noisy restaurant, the bane of meaningful conversation. When dining out for an important discussion, request a corner table where you'll have at least one wall to block ambient noise. Position yourself with your back against the wall, using it as a sound reflector that naturally amplifies your voice towards your listener. In a brilliant pinch, you can even use a menu as a makeshift sound barrier, angling it to create a mini acoustic environment. And remember to drop into your lower register. Deeper tones cut through background chatter far more effectively than higher pitches. Then there's the echo-prone conference room, those sleek modern spaces with glass walls, hardwood tables, and not a sound-absorbing surface in sight. If you frequently present in such spaces, consider investing in portable sound absorption panels. These lightweight, fabric-covered foam boards can be discreetly placed around the room before your presentation. Position yourself near any available soft surfaces, curtains, carpeted areas, or upholstered chairs. Focus your speech more directionally, almost as if you're having individual conversations with specific people rather than broadcasting to the whole room. And counterintuitively, try reducing your volume slightly. Speaking too loudly in an echo-prone room actually compounds the problem. For the large auditorium, preparation is everything. Arrive early enough for a thorough sound check, walking the entire space while someone listens from different areas. Mentally mark your power positions on stage, places where your voice naturally carries best. Use the space dynamically, moving deliberately to signal transitions in your content. And make a conscious effort to engage different sections of the audience throughout your talk, making eye contact with the back rows as often as the front. And now, the virtual environment, our newest frontier of communication challenges. Invest in a quality microphone. This single upgrade will improve your virtual presence more than any other factor. Create a sound-dampened space by adding soft materials around your speaking area. Even hanging a blanket behind your computer can dramatically reduce echo. Position your cameras at eye level to create the natural connection that comes from direct eye contact. And ensure you have a stable internet connection, preferably with a wired Ethernet rather than Wi-Fi, to prevent the disruption of freezes and drops. Each environment presents unique challenges, but each can be mastered with thoughtful preparation and adaptation. Environmental mastery exercises. To truly master your environment, you need a set of practices that develop your spatial awareness and adaptability. Let me share 3 exercises that will transform how you interact with any speaking space. I call the first one the room reading exercise. Before any important talk, arrive early. Not just minutes, but a good half hour if possible. Walk the entire perimeter of the space, absorbing its qualities through all your senses. As you move, speak aloud. Try different volumes, different tones. Notice where your voice bounces back and where it seems to disappear. Pay attention to the spots where your words sound most clear, most resonant. These observations aren't just interesting. They're tactical information that will shape how you use the space during your actual presentation. The second exercise is what I call acoustic mapping. This is creating a mental map of the room's acoustic landscape, identifying and remembering the different zones that affect your sound. Notice the dead spots where sound is absorbed, perhaps by heavy curtains or acoustic panels. Mark the live spots where hard surfaces create reflection points that amplify your voice. Find the sweet spots, those magical positions where your voice naturally carries with clarity and warmth. And be aware of problem areas, air vents that create noise, doors where interruptions might occur, or spots with electrical interference if you're using microphones. The third exercise, the space adaptation drill, is something you'll practice over time. Take the same piece of content, a 2-minute introduction about yourself, for example, and practice delivering it in dramatically different environments. Start in a small room like your office or bedroom, then try the same content in a large hall or open outdoor space. Practice it in different online platforms too, Zoom, Teams, phone calls. Each time, notice how you instinctively adjust your delivery. What changes? Your volume, your pace, your gestures. This conscious awareness of your adaptations will make you more intentional and effective in any environment you encounter. With regular practice of these exercises, you'll develop an environmental intelligence that most speakers never acquire. You'll walk into a room and instinctively know how to use it to amplify your message rather than fight against it. Advanced environmental strategies. Once you've mastered the basics of environmental awareness, you can begin to employ more sophisticated strategies that turn the space itself into a powerful communication tool. Let me share 3 advanced approaches that will elevate your environmental mastery. The first is what I call sound shaping, using physical positioning to create specific emotional effects. When you want to create intimacy and connection, move closer to your audience. The proximity naturally lowers your volume and creates a sense of shared confidence. When you need to establish authority or make an important point, take a deliberate step back. This distance actually amplifies your presence, especially if you combine it with a slight increase in volume. Use height strategically too, standing on a platform for major points, stepping down to level ground for more collaborative moments. And learn to create sound corridors, imaginary pathways through the room where your voice projects most effectively, allowing you to aim your words at specific sections of your audience. The second advanced strategy is energy management, controlling the emotional atmosphere of the room through deliberate vocal and physical choices. Use movement to direct attention. A step to the right signals a transition. A move forward creates emphasis. Create dynamic sound patterns by varying not just the content of your speech, but its spatial delivery. Build acoustic variety by sometimes speaking from the center, sometimes from the side, sometimes while moving. And most importantly, learn to control audience focus by adjusting your own focus. When you look intently at one part of the room, the entire audience's attention will follow your gaze. The third strategy, environmental storytelling, transforms the physical space into part of your narrative structure. Use position shifts to signal scene changes in your story, perhaps moving stage right when describing the problem, center when explaining the solution, and stage left when sharing results. Employ level changes for emotional shifts, perhaps sitting when discussing challenges, standing for solutions, and moving higher for inspirational moments. Use distance variation to create dramatic effect, stepping closer to the audience during pivotal moments, creating anticipation as you move forward. With practice, you can even incorporate environmental elements into your speech, referencing the architecture of the room, the history of the building, or the symbolic meaning of the space to reinforce your message. UVMPP, the environmental checklist. Before any important communication, whether it's a major presentation or a crucial one-on-one conversation, run through this mental checklist. Have you assessed the room's acoustics? Will you need to adjust your volume or articulation based on how sound travels in this space? Have you identified and managed potential background noise? Perhaps asking for air conditioning to be adjusted or requesting a room away from a noisy hallway. Have you configured the space optimally? Are seats arranged to support rather than hinder communication? Is the temperature comfortable, not so hot that people will drift into drowsiness, not so cold that they're distracted by discomfort? Is the lighting supportive of the mood you want to create? Have you tested all technical systems if you're using them? Microphones, projectors, sound systems? And crucially, do you have backup plans in place for potential environmental challenges? a portable microphone if the room proved larger than expected, a handout if the projector fails, or a way to adjust if unexpected noise interrupts. Remember this fundamental truth about environmental mastery. The best speakers don't fight their environment, they make it work for them. Every space has its own voice. Your job is to blend yours with it harmoniously, creating a perfect acoustic partnership between your message and the place where it's delivered. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen. By Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 6. The Integration Masterclass. You're still with me? Good. Think about it for a moment. You've traveled quite a journey already, haven't you? The building blocks of your magnetic voice, the deadly sins to avoid, the powerful HAIL framework, the technical mastery, the environmental factors. It's a lot. And you might be wondering, how do I bring all this together? That's what this chapter is about. Integration. Not just knowing the parts, but playing the whole instrument beautifully. Let me share something I've observed after working with thousands of speakers, from CEOs to teachers, from politicians to parents. There are 3 distinct types of speakers in this world. First, there's the technical speaker. These people have done their homework. They've mastered proper breathing, clear articulation, good volume. You understand every word they say, but something's missing, isn't it? They reach your ears, but not your heart. Then there's the strategic communicator. These speakers are calculated. They know exactly when to pause, when to speed up, when to use their chest voice for authority. Everything is deliberate. They're effective, sometimes impressive, but you can often sense the machinery working. And finally, there's the rarest breed, the magnetic presence. These remarkable individuals have integrated everything so completely that you don't notice technique at all. They're simply present, authentic, connected. Their voice becomes a direct extension of their being. When they speak, you don't just hear them, you feel them. This third level, this is our destination, where all these skills become so natural, so internalized, that you never have to consciously think about them again. Does that sound impossible? I promise you, it's not. But remember learning to drive, those first terrifying lessons? Check mirror, signal, brake gently, turn wheel, check blind spot. Every single action required intense concentration. Now think about how you drive today. You do all those things automatically while having a conversation or planning your day. The skills have become integrated, moved from conscious competence to unconscious competence. That's exactly the journey ahead for your voice. So how do we get there? Let me show you the integration protocol that has transformed thousands of communicators. First, layered practice. Don't try to implement everything at once. That's like trying to learn all the instruments in an orchestra simultaneously. You'll produce noise rather than music. Instead, adopt a methodical, sequential approach that builds competence through focused attention on one element at a time. Begin your practice journey by dedicating the first week entirely to breath support and posture, establishing the physical foundation that will support all other elements of your voice. Set aside any concerns about how you sound. Simply focus on the mechanics of proper breathing and alignment. During the second week, maintain that newfound breath support while adding conscious awareness of your register choices. Notice when you're speaking from your head, middle, or chest voice, and begin making deliberate choices about which register serves your message best. For the third week, maintain both breath support and register awareness while introducing prosody into your practice. Experiment with the rises and falls, the rhythmic patterns that bring your speech to life and maintain listener engagement. As you enter the fourth week, integrate pace variation into your growing skill set, playing with the strategic speeding up and slowing down that creates emphasis and contrast. Finally, in the fifth week, add volume dynamics to your practice, exploring the full spectrum from intimate whisper to commanding projection. This layered approach builds a foundation that doesn't collapse under pressure because each element has been thoroughly integrated before adding the next level of complexity. I worked with a trial attorney who tried to change everything about her voice at once, attempting to transform her breathing, register, prosody, pace and volume all in a single week of practice. The result was devastating. In her next courtroom appearance, she froze, couldn't remember any of the techniques, couldn't find her natural voice, and couldn't deliver her prepared arguments effectively. When we rebuilt her voice layer by layer, following this methodical approach, the transformation was remarkable. Within 3 months, she was commanding the courtroom like never before, her voice naturally integrating all the elements we'd practiced in sequence. Second, contextual transfer. Your voice needs to work everywhere, not just in perfect conditions. The skills you develop in ideal practice settings must transfer to the varied, unpredictable contexts where you actually communicate. Begin this transfer process in the safest, most controlled environment, practicing in front of your bathroom mirror. This private space allows you to experiment freely, without the pressure of others' evaluation. Embrace the vulnerability of this stage, playing with vocal techniques that might initially feel strange or uncomfortable. Once you're comfortable with mirror practice, advance to the next challenge, recording yourself and listening back. Yes, everyone initially hates this part of the process. We're often startled and dismayed by how different our recorded voice sounds from what we hear in our heads. Push through this discomfort. It offers invaluable feedback about how others actually hear you. Listen, not for perfection, but for opportunities to refine your delivery. Next, practice with one supportive friend who will give honest yet encouraging feedback. Choose someone whose judgment you trust, but who also wants to see you succeed. Their external perspective will reveal blind spots you can't identify on your own. After succeeding in this one-on-one context, challenge yourself further by trying your new vocal skills in a small group setting, where you'll need to maintain your vocal presence while managing the dynamics of multiple listeners. Finally, test your skills in real-world situations with actual stakes. A team meeting, a client presentation, a family gathering. These authentic contexts will show you where your skills are solidly integrated and where they need further refinement. Each context builds your confidence and stress-proofs your skills, ensuring they remain accessible even under pressure. I had a client, a brilliant professor, who sounded magnificent in our private practice sessions, but reverted to a monotone whisper during actual lectures. Why? Because we hadn't built the contextual bridge. Once we practiced in progressively more challenging environments, deliberately recreating the conditions of his classroom, his laboratory, and his conference presentations, his classroom presence became as powerful as his private one. The skills transferred because we had systematically prepared for the specific contexts where he needed them most. Third, feedback integration. You need a systematic approach to incorporate what you're learning, transforming feedback into actionable improvement. Begin with ruthlessly honest self-assessment through recordings. Listen to yourself, not with harsh judgment, but with curious analysis. What do you actually sound like to others? Where are the strengths you can build upon and the patterns that need refinement? Make specific notes rather than general impressions, identifying precise moments where your voice achieves its potential or falls short of it. Complement this self-assessment with trusted observer feedback from people who can hear what you cannot. These external perspectives reveal your blind spots, the unconscious vocal habits that you've lived with so long you no longer notice them. Ask specific questions rather than seeking general impressions. Did my pace vary enough to maintain interest? Could you hear the emphasis on key points? Did my voice convey the confidence I intended? Analyze audience reaction with the detachment of a scientist studying an interesting phenomenon. How are people responding to different elements of your speech? When do they lean in with interest? When do they seem confused or disengaged? These real-time responses provide invaluable data about what's working and what needs adjustment. If you work with a professional coach, integrate their insights about patterns that need addressing. Their trained ear can often identify subtle issues that dramatically affect your impact. Create a simple feedback form with specific questions that target the elements you're working to improve. Was I clear, engaging, authentic, impactful? Ask both yourself and others to complete this form after important communications, creating a consistent framework for evaluation and improvement. Fourth, deliberate integration exercises. The Spotlight drill creates a powerful framework for developing simultaneous awareness of multiple vocal elements. Begin by selecting a topic that interests you enough to speak about for exactly 2 minutes, something you know well and care about. For the first 30 seconds, focus your entire attention solely on your breath, ensuring it flows smoothly and supports your speech without tension or restriction. For the next 30 seconds, maintain that breath awareness while shifting your spotlight of attention to your register, noticing and controlling which voice floor you're operating from. In the following segment, direct your focus to prosody, the musical elements of your speech, while maintaining awareness of breath and register in the background. Next, concentrate on pace, the strategic speeding up and slowing down that creates emphasis and engagement. In the final segment, pull everything together into a cohesive whole, maintaining simultaneous awareness of all elements. This practice trains your brain to hold awareness of multiple dimensions simultaneously, gradually making this complex coordination automatic rather than effortful. The Reality Bridge exercise connects your practice directly to your life by identifying 3 real communication situations you face regularly. These might be team meetings where you need to present ideas convincingly, client calls where you need to project confidence and expertise, or even bedtime stories with your children where you want to create connection through expressive storytelling. For each situation, create a specific integration plan that addresses the unique challenges and opportunities of that context. Practice with increasing realism, gradually adding elements of the actual situation, the physical environment, the time constraints, the specific listeners, the typical content. Implement your newly integrated skills in actual situations, making mental notes about what worked and what didn't. After each real-world application, review and refine your approach, adjusting your practice to address any challenges that emerge. This cyclical process of practice, application, and refinement creates a continuous improvement loop that steadily enhances your communication effectiveness. Challenge number 1, the authenticity crisis. As you begin applying vocal techniques, you may experience what I call the authenticity crisis. That uncomfortable feeling that your new vocal approach seems artificial or performative. You might think, this doesn't sound like me, or worry, people will think I'm putting on airs. This reaction is completely normal and occurs because you're consciously adjusting patterns that previously operated on autopilot. Your brain interprets this conscious attention as evidence of artificiality, triggering discomfort and resistance. What's really happening is actually the opposite of inauthenticity. You're beginning to liberate your true voice from unconscious habits and limitations. The solution isn't to abandon technique, but to reframe your understanding of authenticity itself. True authenticity isn't about sticking with familiar patterns just because they feel comfortable. It's about aligning your expression with your genuine intention and essence. The techniques you're learning aren't adding an artificial layer to your communication. They're removing the barriers that prevent your true voice from emerging. Every great communicator combines natural talent with deliberate technique, just as every great athlete combines natural ability with refined skills. Think of these vocal practices as clearing away the static that interferes with your signal, rather than adding an artificial enhancement. A psychological technique that helps tremendously is the future self visualization. Take a moment to imagine the version of yourself who has fully integrated these vocal skills, speaking with effortless presence, connecting deeply with listeners, and expressing ideas with clarity and impact. Notice how this future self moves, breathes, and speaks. Feel the alignment between their internal state and external expression. This isn't a fake persona, but rather your authentic self, freed from current limitations. Now, each time you practice, you're not putting on something artificial. You're stepping into the reality of who you're becoming. This small shift in perspective dissolves the false dichotomy between technique and authenticity, allowing you to embrace both simultaneously. Challenge number 2, the consistency problem. Perhaps you've experienced this common pattern. During focused practice sessions, your vocal skills shine impressively, but in spontaneous real-world situations, an unexpected question in a meeting, a heated conversation with a colleague, or a surprise introduction at an event, you revert to old habits. This inconsistency happens because new skills require conscious attention until they become automatic, and high-pressure situations naturally direct your focus toward content rather than delivery. The challenge lies in maintaining vocal presence even when your conscious attention is demanded elsewhere, particularly in emotionally charged or cognitively demanding contexts. The solution lies in what I call trigger state practice, a systematic approach to embedding new vocal patterns into various emotional and cognitive states. Begin by identifying your common communication triggers, situations that typically cause you to lose vocal presence. These might include time pressure, disagreement, explaining complex ideas, receiving criticism, or speaking to authority figures. Next, create simplified simulation exercises that evoke similar states while practicing your vocal techniques. For example, solve math problems aloud while maintaining optimal breathing, and register, or respond to challenging questions while consciously managing your pace and prosody. Gradually increase the difficulty of these simulations until you can maintain vocal presence even under significant cognitive or emotional load. Equally important is developing a micro-reset routine, a 3 to 5 second sequence that quickly re-establishes optimal vocal conditions. This might include a subtle breath pattern, a brief body adjustment, and a mental trigger phrase that reconnects you with your vocal intention. Practice this reset sequence until it becomes reflexive, then deliberately deploy it during transitions in conversations, when switching topics, after someone else speaks, or before important points. These micro moments of conscious reconnection prevent vocal drift and help maintain consistency throughout extended interactions, ultimately creating a virtuous cycle where consistent practice leads to consistent performance, which reinforces your confidence in the new patterns. Challenge number 3, the context switching dilemma. Throughout your day, you likely move between vastly different communication contexts, from an authoritative presentation to a collaborative team discussion, from a nurturing conversation with a direct report to a strategic meeting with senior leadership. Each of these contexts demands different vocal qualities for optimal effectiveness, creating what I call the context switching dilemma. How to adapt your voice appropriately for each situation without losing authenticity or requiring exhausting amounts of conscious recalibration. Many people resolve this dilemma poorly, either using an identical vocal approach regardless of context, limiting their effectiveness, or constantly monitoring and adjusting their voice, creating mental fatigue and appearing inauthentic. The solution is developing what I call vocal presets, consciously designed vocal configurations that you can access effortlessly for different contexts. Begin by identifying the 3 to 5 most common communication contexts in your professional and personal life. For each context, define the optimal combination of register, timbre, prosody, pace, and volume. Practice these distinct configurations until they become familiar and comfortable, always ensuring they remain authentic expressions of your voice rather than artificial personas. The key is finding the version of your voice that best serves each situation while still feeling genuinely yours, like different outfits from the same wardrobe rather than costumes that disguise your identity. Once you've established these presets, create deliberate transition rituals between contexts. When moving from a high authority situation to a collaborative one, for example, take 30 seconds to breathe, reset your physical posture, and mentally recalibrate your vocal intention. These brief transitions prevent vocal bleed, where the vocal qualities appropriate for one context inappropriately carry into another. With practice, you'll develop contextual vocal intelligence, the ability to seamlessly adapt your voice to each situation while maintaining a consistent core identity. This balances adaptability with authenticity, allowing you to be both versatile and genuine in your communication across the full spectrum of your professional and personal interactions. Let me share a real story that brings all this together. Thomas was a mid-level manager with extraordinary technical knowledge. His ideas were brilliant, his analysis impeccable, his solutions innovative. But in meetings, nobody listened. His voice was so disconnected from his expertise that his contributions went largely unnoticed or unconsidered. His performance reviews repeatedly said things like, needs executive presence and should command more respect, vague feedback that left him frustrated and confused about how to improve. When he came to me, we did a thorough assessment. It revealed several specific vocal patterns that were undermining his impact. Shallow breathing created tension in his voice, making him sound anxious even when discussing topics he thoroughly understood. He stayed primarily in head voice, which undermined his authority, particularly when presenting to senior leaders. His rushed pace suggested insecurity and made his complex ideas difficult to follow. Flat prosody made important points blend with minor ones, so listeners couldn't distinguish crucial information from supporting details. And his posture collapsed when facing any resistance, physically diminishing his presence at the most critical moments. These weren't just vocal issues, they were career limiters, preventing his valuable contributions from receiving the attention and implementation they deserved. Over 6 months, we built his integration systematically. We started with breath and posture, creating the physical foundation for confident speech. Then we added register awareness, helping him access his chest voice for key points while maintaining the clarity of his middle register for explanations. Next came pace work, learning to slow down for emphasis and speed up for energy. Finally, we integrated prosody, adding the vocal variety that maintains interest through complex technical discussions. The transformation wasn't just vocal, it rippled through his entire professional life. His ideas began receiving serious consideration. His recommendations were implemented, his expertise was sought out. Within a year, he received his first executive promotion. 3 years later, he was leading a division, his voice as developed as his technical expertise. What Thomas discovered, what I hope you'll discover too, is that integration creates something far greater than the sum of its parts. When all elements of your voice work together harmoniously, you achieve a presence that's truly magnetic. But here's the truth. Integration isn't a destination, it's a lifelong journey. Even the world's greatest communicators, the Obamas, the Oprahs, the Martin Luther Kings, constantly refined their vocal presence. Here's how to make integration a lifelong practice. First, create a personal vocal development plan that structures your ongoing growth. Begin with an annual assessment where you honestly evaluate your strengths and weaknesses, recording your voice in different contexts and listening with analytical attention. Set quarterly focus areas targeting specific elements, perhaps dedicating 3 months to mastering prosody, followed by a quarter focused on register flexibility. Schedule monthly practice sessions with deliberate feedback loops, creating regular opportunities to refine your skills with input from trusted observers. Engage in weekly integration exercises that combine multiple voice elements in progressively challenging contexts. Establish daily awareness moments, even just 30 seconds, where you consciously connect with your voice, maintaining the neural pathways you're developing. Second, build a voice support community that sustains your development through shared commitment and mutual growth. Find practice partners equally dedicated to communication excellence. Perhaps colleagues who also recognize the importance of vocal development. Exchange specific, constructive feedback regularly, creating a safe space where honest assessment nurtures improvement rather than triggering defensiveness. Celebrate improvements together, acknowledging milestones with the same enthusiasm you bring to identifying areas for growth. Hold each other accountable through regular check-ins and shared practice sessions, especially during busy periods when skill development tends to be neglected. Third, and this might surprise you, teach what you've learned to others as a powerful method of integration. As your voice develops, share specific techniques with interested colleagues who notice your improved communication. Mentor others facing important presentations or challenging conversations, offering guidance based on your experience. Lead workshops on aspects of vocal development you've mastered, forcing you to articulate implicit knowledge in clear, structured ways. Create various opportunities to pass on your learning, knowing that explaining something to others deepens your own mastery immeasurably. Fourth, embrace the art of continuous refinement through perpetual curiosity about the human voice and its possibilities. Seek advanced learning opportunities through specialized courses, workshops, or individual coaching sessions that expose you to new perspectives and techniques. Study diverse speakers across different fields: politics, business, entertainment, education, noting the specific vocal elements that make each effective despite their different styles. Experiment regularly with new techniques that stretch your comfort zone and expand your expressive range. Push your boundaries by deliberately seeking challenging communication contexts that demand your absolute best, knowing that growth happens at the edge of comfort. As we reach the end of our exploration together, I want you to understand something important. This is really just the beginning. Your voice is the externalization of your essence, the sound of your unique perspective and presence in the world. When you develop it consciously, you're not just becoming a better communicator, you're becoming a clearer channel for your authentic self. You're enabling your ideas, your values, and your vision to reach others with unprecedented clarity and impact. Remember that the ultimate purpose of developing a magnetic voice isn't about technical perfection or performance. It's about connection. It's about creating moments of genuine understanding and shared experience through the powerful medium of sound. Every time you speak with intention, whether addressing 1,000 people or engaging in an intimate conversation, you're creating ripples of influence that extend far beyond the immediate interaction. Take a moment right now to consider your voice's potential. Think about the people waiting to be moved by your words, colleagues seeking clarity, friends needing authentic connection, audiences hungry for meaningful ideas expressed with conviction. Consider how your enhanced vocal presence might transform not just your professional opportunities, but your personal relationships, your community involvement, and your overall sense of alignment between your inner and outer self. The journey of vocal development is continuous, challenging, and immensely rewarding. Some days, you'll feel the magic of perfect resonance, when your voice effortlessly expresses exactly what you intend, with precision and power. Other days, you'll struggle with old patterns and temporary limitations. Embrace both experiences as part of the process, knowing that conscious practice always leads to growth, even when that growth isn't immediately apparent. Speak in a way that matters. Speak in a way that resonates with those who hear you. Speak in a way that honors your unique perspective while creating bridges of understanding to others. This is your birthright and your opportunity. Your voice matters. Use it well. The journey of vocal development is continuous, challenging, and immensely rewarding. Some days you'll feel the magic of perfect resonance, when your voice effortlessly expresses exactly what you intend, with precision and power. Other days you'll struggle with old patterns and temporary limitations. Embrace both experiences as part of the process, knowing that conscious practice always leads to growth, even when that growth isn't immediately apparent. Speak in a way that matters. Speak in a way that resonates with those who hear you. Speak in a way that honors your unique perspective while creating bridges of understanding to others. This is your birthright and your opportunity. Your voice matters. Use it well. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen. By Listen, Grow Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 7. The Magnetic Professional Voice. Imagine walking into your workplace tomorrow with a voice so compelling that colleagues instinctively lean forward when you speak. Picture yourself delivering presentations where every person in the room feels personally addressed. Envision negotiations where your voice communicates not just your words, but your unshakable conviction in their value. This isn't fantasy, it's what happens when you develop a magnetic professional voice. The professional voice paradox. Here's a surprising truth. Most professionals dramatically underestimate the impact of their voice on career trajectory. I've worked with brilliant executives who meticulously prepare their content but completely neglect their delivery. They obsess over spreadsheets and strategies but ignore the instrument that will actually convey these ideas to others. This creates what I call the professional voice paradox. The more important your ideas, the more your voice matters, yet the more likely you are to neglect it. A personal story illustrates this perfectly. I once worked with a financial analyst whose insights were revolutionary. Her models consistently outperformed the market. Yet in meetings, her voice was so hesitant, so apologetic, that her recommendations were routinely overlooked. After 3 months of targeted voice development, using many of the techniques you've learned, her career transformed. Same brilliant mind, same innovative ideas, different voice, different results. The authority matrix. Professional settings demand a careful balance of authority and approachability. Too much authority without warmth creates intimidation and distance. Too much warmth without authority undermines credibility. The magic happens at the intersection. This balance is created through what I call the authority matrix. 4 dimensions of vocal presence that, when properly calibrated, create the perfect professional voice for any situation. First, your foundation represents the stable bass notes of your professional voice, those elements that remain consistent across all professional interactions. This includes your consistent breath support that creates a sense of calm competence even under pressure. Your aligned posture signals confidence before you even speak, creating a visual complement to your auditory presence. Your foundational register, the comfortable middle voice where most of your professional communication should live, creates connection while maintaining authority. And your baseline volume, calibrated for your typical environment, ensures you're consistently heard without seeming aggressive. The responsiveness dimension allows your voice to adapt dynamically to the specific needs of each professional interaction. This includes your register flexibility, the ability to shift into chest voice when establishing boundaries or delivering critical information, and into head voice when building rapport or expressing enthusiasm. Your pace variation allows you to speed up to create energy and slow down to emphasize importance. Your volume dynamics create emphasis through contrast rather than just being consistently loud. And your prosodic adaptability, the music of your speech, maintains engagement through extended professional communication. Your precision demonstrates mastery through vocal clarity that leaves no room for misinterpretation. This includes your articulation clarity, the crisp definition of consonants and vowels that ensures every word is understood without strain. Your terminological precision uses the right vocabulary for your audience without hiding behind jargon. Your structural clarity creates clear verbal signposts that guide listeners through complex information. And your question intonation avoids the common mistake of voice lift at the end of statements, which undermines authority by making declarations sound like questions. Finally, your connection dimension ensures that authority doesn't create distance. This includes your warmth, the tonal quality that conveys genuine interest in the humans you're addressing, not just the transaction at hand. Your attention signals, verbal and vocal cues that show you're fully present and engaged. Your personalization, subtle adjustments in your approach based on the individual or group you're addressing. And your response agility, the ability to adapt in real time to the reactions you observe, creating true dialogue rather than merely delivering a monologue. The perfect professional voice isn't fixed. It moves dynamically through this matrix based on context, audience, and purpose. A client pitch requires different calibration than a collaborative team meeting. A performance review conference demands different vocal qualities than an inspirational town hall address. The magnetic professional voice isn't a single sound. It's a flexible instrument perfectly tuned to each situation. The 7 professional voice modes. Let's explore 7 specific contexts and the vocal configurations that create maximum impact in each. The presentation. Voice creates engagement across physical or virtual distances. The key elements here are slightly elevated volume without sounding shouted, projecting from your diaphragm rather than straining your throat. Deliberate pacing with strategic pauses allows complex information to land and gives listeners processing time. Amplified prosody, more dynamic vocal variation than everyday conversation, maintains attention across extended delivery, and heightened articulation ensures clarity even in challenging acoustic environments or through digital compression. Exercise. Record yourself delivering the same presentation segment 3 ways. First with your everyday conversational voice, then with exaggerated presentational delivery, and finally with the calibrated presentation voice that finds the perfect balance. Notice how the first lacks impact and the second feels forced, while the third creates engagement without artifice. The persuasion voice builds credibility and conviction. Begin with downward inflection at the end of key statements, the opposite of the questioning uplift that undermines authority. Employ strategic pauses before and after your most important points, creating space for absorption and impact. Use measured pacing that signals thoughtfulness rather than pressured selling. And develop seamless transitions between logical points, creating a sense of natural progression that leads listeners to your conclusion. Exercise. Select a product, service, or idea you genuinely believe in. Create a 30-second persuasive segment, recording yourself delivering it. Listen back specifically for question patterns in your declarative statements, replacing upward inflections with definitive downward turns at the end of key points. The collaboration voice fosters psychological safety and idea flow. Employ inclusive modulation, a warm, inviting tone that signals genuine interest in others' contributions. Use question prosody that rises with actual curiosity rather than falling with hidden judgment. Develop validation tones, the specific vocal acknowledgements that show you're truly listening, not just waiting to speak. And practice verbalization of connective thinking, the building on that vocal bridges that show how you're incorporating others' ideas. Exercise. In your next 3 meetings, consciously track your listening ratio, how much time you spend in receptive mode versus speaking mode. Then practice the specific acknowledgement sounds that show engagement without taking the floor. Yes, I see. With varied intonation that adds meaning to these simple sounds. The boundary voice establishes limits with respect rather than aggression. The key elements include chest voice resonance that creates authority without volume, depth rather than loudness. Measured pacing prevents emotional speed-up that signals loss of control. Precision articulation ensures crucial points cannot be misunderstood or deliberately misinterpreted. And balanced expression allows appropriate emotion without it overwhelming your message. Exercise. Identify a boundary you need to establish in your professional life. Craft the exact language, then practice delivering it with these 4 elements. Record yourself and listen for any patterns that might undermine your boundary, apologetic tones, hesitations, or rushed delivery. The leadership voice inspires action and confidence. Develop vision language, specific vocal patterns that expand when describing possibilities, creating an auditory sense of openness and opportunity. Use varied pacing that creates momentum, slightly faster when building excitement, significantly slower when delivering key directives. Employ consistent command presence through aligned posture and breath support that never wavers, even when conveying difficult information. And master decisive closure, the specific tonal pattern that signals a decision has been made while still honoring the discussion that preceded it. Exercise. Identify a leader whose voice you find compelling. Listen to a recording of them speaking for 5 minutes, noting specific vocal patterns, where they speed up and slow down, how they emphasize key points, the quality of their pauses. Then practice incorporating one specific element into your own natural style. The teaching voice builds understanding and retention. The foundation is cognitive pacing, adjusting your speed based on complexity and novelty of information rather than your familiarity with it. Conceptual emphasis uses prosodic highlighting to signal key ideas that deserve special attention. Verbal section markers create clear transitions between different parts of your explanation, and curiosity checks, specific questioning patterns, verify understanding without creating defensiveness. Exercise. Take a complex concept that you understand well. Create a 60-second explanation, consciously integrating at least 3 distinct speeds: standard pace for background information, slower for novel concepts, and briefly faster for supporting examples or asides. The crisis voice creates calm and direction during challenging situations. The core elements include lowered pitch that signals control and prevents stress contagion, very deliberate pacing, often 20 to 30% slower than normal speech, creates a sense of measured response rather than reaction. Eliminated fillers ensure every word carries meaning and purpose. And clarity through simplicity uses straightforward language and short, definitive sentences that can be processed even by stressed minds. Exercise. Create a 30-second crisis response for a hypothetical situation in your field. Record yourself delivering it when you're in a normal state, then deliberately create physical tension by jogging in place for 60 seconds and record again immediately. Notice how stress affects your delivery and practice maintaining calm vocal presence even when your body is in an activated state. Navigating professional voice challenges. Even with developed skills, specific professional situations present unique vocal challenges. Let's address 3 of the most common and their solutions. The digital dilution challenge occurs in virtual meetings and presentations where technology compresses your vocal nuance, removing subtle cues that create connection in person. The physical separation and potential technical issues compound this challenge, making it difficult to gauge reactions and adjust accordingly. Many professionals respond by becoming more monotone and less expressive, exactly the opposite of what's needed. The solution is digital amplification, strategically enhancing specific elements of your voice for digital contexts. Increase your prosodic range by 20 to 30% above your in-person delivery, creating more pronounced variation in pitch, pace, and emphasis. Enhance your articulation precision, giving slightly more definition to consonants that provide clarity. Develop digital-specific gestures that complement your voice, remembering that movement on camera requires different framing than in-person movement. And master the technology itself, learning optimal microphone placement, addressing video framing issues, and handling connectivity problems with grace. The room dominance dilemma arises when a few vocal personalities consistently control conversation dynamics, particularly in meetings or collaborative settings. These dominant voices often have specific characteristics, volume, interruption patterns, extended turn-taking, that aren't necessarily tied to value of contribution. This creates rooms where the loudest voices prevail rather than the best ideas. If you're naturally quieter, the solution is selective assertion, developing specific vocal techniques that command attention without mimicking the dominant style. Practice pattern interrupts, the specific vocal signals that create space for contribution without seeming aggressive. These include phrases like building on that point, delivered with chest voice resonance and slight volume increase. Develop entry tones, the specific vocal quality that signals your intention to speak during transitions. Master the verbal bookmark, explicitly marking your place when interrupted. I'd like to finish my thoughts on X, and returning to it at the next opportunity. And learn to use silence strategically. The power of the well-timed pause often commands more attention than trying to speak over others. If you tend to dominate, practice conscious containment, vocal techniques that maintain your natural energy while creating space for others. This includes deliberate turn completion, the specific tonal pattern that signals you're finishing your point rather than just pausing. Develop invitation inflections, the questioning tones that actively seek input rather than rhetorically asking for agreement. Master the art of verbal yielding, explicitly creating space for specific others to contribute. And practice your receptive voice, the specific vocal qualities that show you're genuinely listening rather than just waiting for your next opportunity to speak. The expertise paradox occurs when deep knowledge of a subject creates vocal patterns that actually undermine your credibility and impact. Specialists often speak too quickly, assuming others can follow their shortcuts. They use field-specific terminology without explanation, creating confusion. Their enthusiasm for technical details can overflow into rushed, compressed speech that's difficult to follow, and their immersion in complexity can manifest as verbal hesitations when trying to simplify for others. The solution is conscious translation, specific vocal techniques that make expertise accessible without diluting it. Practice conceptual pacing, deliberately slowing down for key concepts while maintaining energy through variation in other vocal elements. Develop term introduction patterns, the specific vocal signals that highlight when you're using specialized language, giving listeners a chance to mentally flag words for later questions. Master explanatory layering, the vocal shifts that signal movement between basic concepts, practical applications, and deeper technical elements. And practice the questions that would be asked by a curious non-expert, developing the vocal flexibility to answer at multiple levels of sophistication. The Professional Voice Development Plan. Let me offer a structured approach to developing your magnetic professional voice over time. Week 1 to 2, focused assessment. Record yourself in 3 different professional contexts. Analyze your strengths and specific improvement areas. Identify which professional voice modes you use most often. Set 3 specific development targets. Week 3 to 4, foundation development. Daily breath and posture practice, 5 minutes. Register awareness in all professional communications. Volume calibration for your typical environments. Weekly recording and self-assessment. Week 5 to 6, mode-specific practice. Identify your 3 most critical professional voice modes. Targeted exercises for each mode, 10 minutes daily rotation. Practice switching between modes. Weekly application in actual professional situations. Week 7 to 8, challenge navigation. Identify your primary professional voice challenge. Develop specific techniques to address it. Practice in progressively more realistic scenarios. Incorporate feedback from trusted colleagues. Week 9 to 10, integration and refinement. Full integration into daily professional communication. Targeted practice for specific high-stakes situations. Advanced technique development in your primary modes, feedback collection, and ongoing refinement. Your professional voice is perhaps the most undervalued asset in your career toolkit. While others focus exclusively on content, skills, and credentials, your magnetic voice creates the pathway for all of these to be recognized and valued. Remember, in professional settings, your voice is not just a delivery system for information. It's a powerful expression of your leadership capacity, your collaborative ability, and your executive presence. Developing it is not a superficial enhancement, but a fundamental investment in your professional impact. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen, by Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 8, The Intimate Voice, Personal Connection. Let's shift our focus from conference rooms and presentations to living rooms and personal conversations, from professional authority to intimate connection. Imagine sitting across from someone you care about. The ambient noise of a cafe surrounds you, but between you exists something remarkable. A conversational bubble where true connection happens. Your voice plays a crucial role in creating this sacred space. Different from your professional voice, your intimate voice builds trust, deepens relationships, and heals disconnections. The intimacy paradox. Here's a truth that might surprise you. Many people who excel at public speaking struggle tremendously with intimate conversation. Their voices, so powerful on stage, become awkward, guarded, or superficial in close relationships. This creates what I call the intimacy paradox. The closer the relationship, the more your voice matters, yet the less conscious attention you likely give it. I've seen this playing out in families where parents who command respect in boardrooms find themselves shouting ineffectively at children, their voices stripped of both warmth and authority. I've watched couples move from the flowing conversations of early romance to stilted exchanges years later, their voices having lost the music that once created connection. The same voice that attracts others can, without conscious development, become the very thing that creates distance. The 5 dimensions of intimate voice. Intimate connection through voice happens across 5 distinct dimensions. When you develop all 5, your personal conversations become transformative, creating understanding, building trust, and deepening bonds. The first dimension is attunement, the vocal qualities that create a sense of being fully present with another person. This begins with response matching, subtly aligning your volume, pace, and energy with the other person's emotional state, creating a sense of shared experience. It includes attentive silence, the quality of your quiet moments that demonstrates listening rather than merely waiting to speak. It requires breath synchronization, unconsciously matching your breathing pattern to create physiological connection. And it depends on interruption discipline, developing the capacity to hold your thoughts while fully receiving another's words. The second dimension is vulnerability invitation, the vocal qualities that make it safe for authentic sharing. This includes warmth resonance, the specific tonal qualities that create emotional safety, often found in your middle and head registers with conscious activation of chest resonance. It requires judgment-free prosody, vocal patterns free from the subtle lifts and emphases that signal evaluation. It depends on patience pacing, the unhurried vocal quality that communicates take all the time you need. And it's supported by affirmation tones, the specific sounds that encourage continued sharing without shifting the focus. The third dimension is emotional precision, the capacity to express feelings with accuracy and appropriate intensity. This involves emotional vocabulary development, expanding beyond basic terms like good, bad, fine, to express nuanced emotional states. It requires intensity calibration, matching your vocal expression to the actual magnitude of the feeling, avoiding both dramatic exaggeration and flattened affect. It depends on congruence between your words, tone, and body language, alignment that creates trust rather than confusion. And it's enhanced by vocal vulnerability, the willingness to let your voice reveal emotion authentically rather than maintaining perfect control. The fourth dimension is conflict capability, using your voice to navigate disagreement constructively. This includes de-escalation tones, the specific vocal patterns that lower emotional temperature and create safety even during disagreement. It requires question authenticity, asking with genuine curiosity rather than disguised accusation, a difference expressed primarily through tone. It depends on maintaining connection markers, verbal and vocal signals that you remain connected to the person even while disagreeing with their position. And it's supported by repair initiation, the specific vocal quality that opens the door to reconciliation with humility rather than demand. The fifth dimension is joy creation, using your voice to generate and amplify positive shared experiences. This involves celebration resonance, the vocal qualities that express and enhance shared joy, often in your higher register with bright timbre. It includes playfulness, the vocal freedom that emerges when you release the constraints of serious communication. It requires story music, the prosodic patterns that transform everyday anecdotes into engaging narratives worth sharing. And it's enhanced by laughter dynamics, understanding how your voice can initiate and join in the rhythmic social bonding of shared humor. Each dimension serves a crucial purpose in building intimate connection. Some relationships might need particular focus on vulnerability invitation to heal past trusts that were broken. Others might benefit from developing joy creation to revitalize long-term bonds. The most fulfilling relationships demonstrate vocal capacity across all 5 dimensions, shifting fluidly as needed. 3 relationship types, 3 vocal approaches. Different relationships demand different vocal approaches. Let's explore 3 crucial relationship categories and the specific vocal techniques that enhance each. The partnership voice creates and maintains deep bonds with romantic partners or close friends. The foundation here is cyclical disclosure, a vocal pattern where sharing and listening alternates in a rhythm that creates progressive deepening. This includes explicit transition signals, verbal and vocal cues that indicate when you're shifting from listening to sharing. It requires topic completion, the discipline to fully explore one area of conversation before moving to another. And it depends on emotional consistency, maintaining a stable vocal presence even when content becomes challenging. Exercise. In your next significant conversation with your partner, consciously track your disclosure ratio, how much you share versus how much you invite them to share. Then practice creating explicit space for their perspective with phrases like, "I'd like to hear your thoughts on this," delivered with a tone that conveys genuine interest rather than obligation. Finally, challenge yourself to stay with difficult topics rather than using voice and language to shift away when discomfort arises. The parental voice guides and nurtures without controlling. The core elements include boundary clarity, distinct vocal shifts that clearly signal movement between supportive guidance and firm limits. It requires engagement matching, adjusting your vocal approach based on the developmental stage and current state of the child. It depends on emotional separation, maintaining a calm, centered voice even when responding to intense child emotions. And it's enhanced by wondertones, the vocal quality that expresses genuine curiosity about your child's experience and perspective. Exercise. Record yourself during 3 different parental interactions, giving praise, setting a boundary, and helping with a challenge. Listen for vocal patterns that might create unintended effects. Does your praise sound conditional? Does your boundary setting contain unnecessary emotion? Does your problem-solving voice leave room for their agency? Identify one specific pattern to refine and practice it consciously in your next interaction. The friendship voice creates a container for mutual growth and support. It's built on celebration authenticity, the genuine vocal enthusiasm that acknowledges others' successes without comparison or competition. It includes struggle receptivity, the vocal quality that creates space for friends to share difficulties without rushing to solutions. It requires consistency across settings, maintaining authentic connection, whether in one-on-one conversations or group settings. And it's enhanced by memory markers, the specific vocal patterns that reference shared history, building continuity and deepening bonds over time. Exercise. With a close friend, practice the art of verbal mirroring, reflecting back what you hear them express emotionally before adding your own perspective. Focus specifically on matching not just their words, but the emotional tone behind their words, creating a true sense of being understood before moving the conversation forward. The connected conversation framework. The quality of your personal relationships depends largely on the quality of your conversations. Use this framework to structure interactions that create genuine connection. The opening sets the foundation for meaningful exchange. Begin with presence establishment, a brief period of settling in physically and vocally before diving into content. This might be as simple as a few shared breaths or a genuine "how are you?" with space for a real answer. Use voice matching to create resonance, adjusting your tone and pace to complement the other person's energy without mimicking it. Establish a shared agenda with a tone of discovery rather than determination. What feels important for us to talk about today, rather than arriving with a preset plan. And create communication containers, explicit but gentle vocal boundaries around time, topic, or emotional intensity that help the conversation thrive. The exploration guides the conversation toward meaningful depth. Use tone shifting to signal movement between different types of exchange, information sharing, emotional expression, problem solving, or creative thinking. Each deserves its own vocal quality to create clarity. Practice non-leading questions, inquiries delivered with genuine openness rather than the subtle vocal cues that signal you're looking for a specific answer. Develop progressive disclosure pacing, a rhythm of sharing that moves gradually deeper rather than forcing premature intimacy or remaining perpetually superficial. And master the art of verbal validation, the specific phrases and tones that acknowledge emotions without necessarily agreeing with positions. The integration helps insights and connections solidify. Use thematic highlighting, subtle vocal emphasis that draws attention to recurring patterns or important realizations emerging in the conversation. Practice collaborative summary, verbally gathering the essence of what's been shared with a tone that invites correction or refinement. Develop explicit appreciation, specifically noting what you value about what's been shared or how you've been heard, delivered with genuine warmth rather than perfunctory acknowledgement. And create forward bridges, language and tone that connects this conversation to your ongoing relationship, whether setting specific next steps or simply affirming the value of continued dialogue. Navigating intimate voice challenges. Even in our closest relationships, specific challenges can derail the connecting power of our voice. Let's address 3 of the most common and their solutions. The emotional contagion challenge occurs when heightened emotions, anxiety, frustration, excitement, create vocal patterns that trigger similar states in others, potentially escalating difficult interactions or creating reactivity instead of response. This happens because humans are biologically wired for vocal emotional resonance. We unconsciously match the emotional states we hear expressed in others' voices. In close relationships where emotional investment is high, this contagion effect can be particularly powerful. The solution is emotional containment, maintaining vocal sovereignty even amid strong feelings. The first key practice is breath centering, using conscious breathing patterns to regulate your vocal production even when emotionally activated. Next comes pace control, deliberately slowing your speech by 10 to 20% when you notice emotional acceleration, creating space for thought between words. Develop tonal discipline, the ability to modulate the emotional intensity in your voice independent of the intensity of your feelings. And practice the meta moment, briefly stepping outside the interaction to name what's happening vocally. I notice my voice is getting faster and higher, and I want to slow down so we can hear each other better. The harmful history pattern emerges when past conversational wounds create reflexive vocal responses in present interactions. A partner's questioning tone might remind you of critical parents, triggering defensive vocal patterns regardless of their actual intent. Your enthusiastic sharing might have been repeatedly dismissed by a previous partner, leading to hesitant apologetic tones when expressing excitement. These historical patterns can create present disconnections when your voice responds to ghosts from the past rather than the person before you now. The solution is pattern interruption, conscious redirection of habitual vocal responses. Begin with pattern identification, noticing your specific vocal shifts when triggered by historical echoes. This might include rapid pitch elevation, sudden volume change, or significant pace acceleration. Develop interruption cues, physical or mental signals that create a moment of choice before your habitual response takes over. Practice alternative pathways, pre-planned vocal responses that express your authentic feelings without the historical overlay. And where appropriate, share your process, letting key people know the specific vocal patterns you're working to change and why, creating allies in your growth rather than confused witnesses to unexplained shifts in your communication. The intimacy resistance manifests when vulnerability feels threatening, creating vocal patterns that maintain safety through distance. This might appear as topic deflection, using humor or tangents to avoid emotional depth, signaled primarily through sudden shifts in vocal tone. It includes detail submersion, hiding from emotional connection beneath a flood of facts and information, often delivered in a detached, rapid pattern. It manifests as intellectualization, shifting from personal to abstract discussion through a more formal, removed vocal quality. And it appears as time compression, subtly or explicitly rushing conversations that approach meaningful territory, expressed through accelerated pace and shortened responses. The solution is conscious vulnerability, deliberately practicing the vocal patterns that create connection despite discomfort. Begin with softening practice, gently releasing the physical tension that creates vocal constriction during vulnerable moments. Develop duration extension, gradually increasing how long you can stay in emotionally significant conversations before shifting away, stretching your comfort zone incrementally. Practice completion phrases, specific language and tones that help you follow through on vulnerable expressions rather than leaving them half-delivered. And create safety rituals, brief practices that help you reset after vulnerability, giving yourself the security to open up, knowing you can return to equilibrium afterward. The Intimate Voice Development Plan. Let me offer a structured approach to developing your connecting voice over time. Week 1 to 2, Relationship Assessment. Identify your 3 most important personal relationships. For each, note which dimension of intimate voice needs most development. Record ordinary conversations with permission and analyze your patterns. Set specific growth targets for each relationship. Week 3 to 4, Attunement Development. Practice synchronized breathing with loved ones. Develop your attentive silence in all conversations. Monitor and reduce interruption patterns. Weekly practice of response matching. Week 5 to 6, Vulnerability Cultivation. Daily warmth resonance exercises, 3 minutes. Practice judgment-free responses to others' sharing. Develop your patience pacing during important conversations. Weekly practice of appropriate vulnerability in your voice. Week 7 to 8, Challenge Navigation. Identify your primary intimate voice challenge. Develop specific techniques to address it. Practice in progressively more meaningful conversations. Incorporate feedback from trusted relationship partners. Week 9 to 10, Integration and Refinement. Full integration into all close relationships. Targeted practice for specific relationship patterns. Development of situation-specific approaches. Ongoing refinement based on relationship outcomes. Your voice in close relationships is not merely a communication tool. It's the very medium through which connection is created and maintained. While the content of what you say matters, the qualities of how you say it often determine whether your words create bridges or walls between you and those you care about most. In a world increasingly mediated by screens and algorithms, the direct human connection created by your voice becomes not just meaningful, but essential. A pathway to the belonging and understanding we all fundamentally seek. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen. By Listen, Grow, Sleep, let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 9, Voice in the Digital Age. Your voice no longer travels only through air. Increasingly, it moves through cables, satellites, compression algorithms, earbuds, and speakers. It's edited, enhanced, broadcast, and sometimes distorted. Understanding how to maintain your magnetic voice across these digital transformations is essential for modern communication. The digital voice landscape. We now exist in multiple sound environments simultaneously, physical spaces and virtual realms, each with distinct acoustic properties. Let me share a striking example. I worked with a podcast host who sounded warm, engaging, and authentic in person. Yet her recordings came across as flat, distant, even slightly cold. The difference wasn't just technical, it was a fundamental misunderstanding of how voice transforms across mediums. Once she learned to adapt her delivery for the intimate space of podcast listening, where she's often literally in someone's ears, her audience connection increased dramatically. Her listener retention jumped 40% in just 3 months, all from understanding the digital translation of voice. 4 digital voice contexts. Let's explore how your voice functions in 4 distinct digital contexts, each requiring specific adaptations to maintain its magnetic quality. The recorded voice creates a one-way connection with unknown future audiences. The fundamental challenge here is absence of feedback. You can't see nodding heads, confused expressions, or engaged eyes. This missing real-time adjustment mechanism often leads to compensatory behaviors, either flattening your expression to avoid any potential issue or exaggerating it to ensure something gets through. Neither serves effective communication. The solution is feedback visualization, developing the capacity to imagine typical listener responses and adjust accordingly. Begin by establishing a listener persona, a specific image of your typical audience member, including where they're listening and what state they're in. Are they commuting with divided attention, exercising with heightened energy, relaxing before sleep? Specify this clearly before recording. Next, create mental checkpoints every 3 to 5 minutes during recording, where you briefly visualize listener reactions and adjust your approach based on what you see. Practice varied engagement techniques, intentionally shifting your vocal approach every few minutes to maintain interest without feedback cues. And master the invisible dialogue, asking and responding to unspoken questions, creating a sense of conversation despite the one-way medium. Technical considerations significantly impact recorded voice effectiveness. Microphone position should be consistent, typically 4 to 6 inches from your mouth, slightly off axis to prevent plosive sounds, PBT, from creating pops. Room acoustics matter tremendously. Excessive reflection creates unflattering reverb, while too much dampening removes natural warmth. Find a balance with selective acoustic treatment and develop compression awareness, understanding that digital transmission often flattens dynamic range, requiring more deliberate variation in your delivery to maintain the same perceived expressiveness. The virtual meeting voice creates connection across distance with visible but limited feedback. The primary challenge is latency. The slight delay between speaking and being heard creates disconnection in the natural rhythm of conversation. This combines with reduced non-verbal cues, limited or absent body language that normally supplements your voice. And the environment fragmentation means participants experience widely different acoustic conditions, from quiet offices to busy cafes, each hearing you differently. The solution is heightened vocal specificity to compensate for these limitations. Practice precise turn-taking signals, clear verbal and vocal cues that indicate when you're finishing a point or asking for response. Develop enhanced articulation, slightly more defined consonants and vowels that ensure clarity across variable connections. Master the virtual eye contact technique, periods of looking directly at your camera to create connection, alternating with watching the screen for feedback. And build in explicit engagement checks, direct questions or polls that create active participation despite the distance. Technical optimization becomes crucial for virtual voice effectiveness. Position your microphone for consistent pickup, usually via headset or dedicated mic rather than computer built-ins. Manage your physical space, minimizing background noise and room echo that can dramatically degrade virtual voice quality. Test your setup regularly, as software updates often change audio settings without notice. And develop contingency fluency, the ability to maintain vocal presence and continue effectively when technology inevitably fails in some way. The voice message creates asynchronous but personal connection. The main challenge is compression, both literally through digital algorithms and figuratively through the need to be concise in a format that discourages rambling. This combines with context loss. The person receiving has limited understanding of your circumstances when recording. And there's listening unpredictability. You never know exactly where or when your message will be heard. The solution is structured spontaneity, a seemingly contradictory approach that balances natural delivery with efficient communication. Begin with a consistent opening pattern that quickly establishes context and purpose, who you are, why you're messaging, and what response you're seeking, all within the first 10 to 15 seconds. Develop information hierarchy, organizing content from most to least important, ensuring crucial points come first. Master the golden 30 rule, recognizing that attention peaks in the first half minute, making this your window for essential content. And practice conclusion clarity, ending with explicit next steps or expectations rather than trailing off. The most effective voice messages incorporate psychological awareness into their structure. Begin by establishing relevance in your opening sentence, answering the listener's unconscious question, why should I pay attention to this? Use pattern interrupts, unexpected vocal shifts, to recapture attention at key points throughout longer messages. Incorporate the receiver's name naturally within the message, activating the attention-focusing effect of hearing one's own name. And employ the pause principle, brief strategic silences before your most important points, creating emphasis without needing to raise volume or change tone. The social audio voice creates community in dedicated audio-only platforms. The unique challenge here is purpose fluidity. These spaces shift rapidly between information sharing, relationship building, and entertainment. This combines with participant variability, some actively speaking, others just listening, creating complex engagement needs. And there's the multi-background reality. Participants join from wildly different environments with varying audio quality and attention capacity. The solution is adaptive fluency, developing distinct vocal approaches for different social audio functions. Master-host modulation, the specific vocal qualities that establish structure, create welcome, and guide conversation flow. Develop contribution clarity, the ability to make focused, value-adding points without monopolizing shared space. Practice active listening sounds, the specific audio cues that show engagement when you're not speaking, an essential skill in audio-only environments. And build inclusive addressing, techniques for drawing in various participants without creating pressure or exclusion. The most effective social audio voices master what I call audio presence, the quality of being fully engaged even when silent. This includes response sounds, the specific non-verbal audio cues that show active listening without interrupting. It requires entry techniques, smooth ways to join conversations without awkward interruption or unnecessary self-deprecation. It demands exit grace, the ability to leave conversations or platforms without creating disruption, and it's enhanced by vocal consistency, developing a recognizable audio presence that builds familiarity and trust over time, your audio equivalent of a personal brand. The Audio Enhancement Toolkit. Beyond context-specific techniques, certain voice enhancements apply across all digital media. Master these 5 approaches to elevate your digital voice presence. Dynamic range expansion compensates for the flattening effect of digital transmission. In person, subtle vocal variations create rich expression. Digitally, these subtleties often disappear. The solution isn't merely speaking louder, but expanding your entire dynamic range. Increase the contrast between your softest and loudest moments by about 20% compared to in-person speech. Expand your pitch variation similarly, using more musical variety to convey meaning and emotion. Create more defined pauses, slightly longer than you'd use in person, to provide definition between ideas. And practice digital emphasis, more pronounced stress on keywords or concepts that might otherwise get lost in transmission. Proximity perception management creates appropriate psychological distance. Different digital formats create different perceived distances to listeners. Podcasts and audio messages often feel extremely intimate. You're literally in someone's ear. Video calls create a middle distance similar to small group interactions. Recorded presentations or large webinars feel more remote, like traditional public speaking. Understanding these perceived distances allows you to match your voice appropriately. For close proximity formats like podcasts, develop a warm conversational intimacy with slightly reduced volume and increased warmth. For medium distance formats like video calls, use a conversational approach with strategic increases in energy at key points. And for distance formats like webinars, employ greater vocal variety and energy throughout to bridge the psychological gap. Technical compensation adapts for specific technological limitations. Understand how your equipment and transmission medium affect your sound, then adjust accordingly. For low-quality microphones that thin out your voice, slightly emphasize your lower register and resonance to compensate. For compression-heavy platforms that flatten dynamic range, create more deliberate variation in your delivery. For environments with potential audio dropouts, build in natural repetition of key points using different phrasing. And for any digital medium, slightly slow your overall pace. Research shows comprehension drops approximately 10% in digital transmission compared to in-person listening. Attention recapture addresses the unique distractibility of digital audiences. Unlike in-person communication, where social convention keeps attention relatively focused, digital listeners often multitask or face multiple competing information streams. Develop pattern interrupts, unexpected vocal shifts that recapture wandering focus. Use the question technique, periodic, genuinely interesting questions that pull listeners back into active engagement. Master the curiosity gap, introducing intriguing points that create anticipation for what comes next. And practice energy shifting, deliberately moving between different vocal energies to prevent the listener adaptation that leads to tuning out. Human reconnection counteracts the inherent distancing effect of digital media. Technology inevitably creates some degree of separation that your voice must work to overcome. Practice vulnerability sequencing, strategically sharing personal elements that create connection, calibrated appropriately for your relationship and context. Develop imperfection comfort, allowing natural voice variations rather than striving for polished perfection that actually creates distance. Use sensory language that activates listeners' imagination beyond the purely auditory experience. And master breathing presence, allowing your natural breath to be occasionally heard, creating subconscious connection through this most fundamental human rhythm. Digital voice challenges and solutions. The digital landscape presents specific challenges for maintaining your magnetic voice. Let's address 3 of the most common and their solutions. The Zoom fatigue phenomenon describes the unique vocal exhaustion that comes from video-based communication. This happens because video calls create a mismatch between perceived physical distance, appears close, and vocal distance, requires projection. Without realizing it, many people raise their volume and push their voice to reach the screen, creating tremendous vocal strain over time. Additionally, a constant self-view creates a performance mindset that increases vocal tension as you unconsciously monitor how you sound and look simultaneously. The solution is digital voice sustainability, techniques to maintain vocal health during extended screen time. First, establish your digital voice foundation, a comfortable, sustainable vocal approach, specifically calibrated for your typical call duration and frequency. This means slightly lower in your register than you might initially choose, with deliberate breath support. Next, implement screen time pacing, scheduling calls with vocal recovery in mind, ideally with 10 to 15 minute breaks between extended sessions. Create a hydration protocol, consistent fluid intake before and during digital communication, ideally room temperature water with optional lemon to maintain vocal cord lubrication. And develop digital warm-up and cool-down routines, brief exercises before and after extended digital speaking to prepare and recover your vocal apparatus. The authenticity technology tension arises when digital enhancement tools, filters, editing, production effects potentially disconnect your communication from your authentic voice. Many people struggle to find the balance between technological optimization and genuine human connection. This can create an uncanny valley effect where a voice sounds technically perfect but emotionally disconnected. The solution is authentic enhancement, using technology to amplify rather than replace your natural voice qualities. Begin with essence identification, defining the core qualities of your voice that must be preserved for authentic connection. For some, this is the warmth in their lower register. For others, it's the characteristic melody of their speech patterns. Next, practice incremental enhancement, adding technological improvements one at a time, checking after each whether your authentic essence remains intact. Master the listening test, having people who know your in-person voice provide feedback on your enhanced digital voice, helping identify when technical improvement crosses into authenticity reduction. And develop platform-specific presets, customized technical settings for different contexts that optimize without homogenizing your unique voice. The digital disinhibition effect describes how the perceived anonymity or distance of digital environments can unintentionally change your vocal patterns. The reduction of immediate social feedback can lead to vocal choices you would never make in person. More aggressive tones, more absolute statements, less nuanced expression. This effect can damage relationships and reputation despite your conscious intentions. The solution is conscious digital continuity, maintaining consistent voice integrity across all communication environments. Start by establishing your voice values, the specific qualities you want to maintain regardless of medium. These might include respect, thoughtfulness, authenticity, and warmth. Next, develop platform transition awareness, consciously noting when you move from one communication context to another, using this awareness to maintain continuity rather than unconsciously shifting into platform-specific patterns. Create a personal review protocol, regularly listening to samples of your communication across different mediums, checking for unintended variations. And practice digital empathy, the deliberate act of imagining the human receiving your communication, including their context and emotional state, before you begin speaking. The Digital Voice Development Plan. Let me offer a structured approach to developing your digital voice presence over time. Week 1 to 2, digital assessment. Record yourself across different digital platforms. Analyze platform-specific patterns and challenges. Identify your primary digital communication contexts. Set specific development targets for each medium. Week 3 to 4, technical foundation. Optimize your equipment within practical constraints. Learn your microphone's sweet spot and optimal settings. Develop environment management for different contexts. Practice basic technical troubleshooting. Week 5 to 6, medium-specific practice. Identify your 3 most crucial digital voice contexts. Develop specific techniques for each, 10 minutes daily rotation. Practice transitions between different digital approaches. Weekly application in actual digital communications. Week 7 to 8, challenge navigation. Identify your primary digital voice challenge. Develop specific techniques to address it. Practice in progressively more realistic scenarios. Incorporate feedback from trusted listeners. Week 9 to 10, integration and refinement. Full integration into daily digital communication. Targeted practice for high-stakes digital situations. Advanced technique development in primary platforms. Ongoing refinement based on audience response. Your digital voice isn't separate from your real voice. It's an extension of your authentic self through technological channels. Rather than seeing digital communication as a poor substitute for real interaction, understand it as an additional dimension of your voice that requires its own development and mastery. In a world increasingly connected through digital channels, your ability to maintain a magnetic voice across platforms isn't just a nice enhancement. It's an essential skill for maintaining human connection in technological spaces. The most powerful digital voices don't feel digital at all. They translate human presence so effectively that the medium becomes transparent, leaving only the connection it creates. You're listening to A Magnetic Voice, How to Talk So That People Want to Listen. By Listen, Grow, Sleep. Let's continue our journey toward mastering the art of magnetic speech. Chapter 10, The Ethical Voice, Leadership and Influence. We've explored how to develop a magnetic voice in various contexts. Now we face perhaps the most important question. How will you use this power? Voice isn't morally neutral. It can heal or harm, unite or divide, elevate or manipulate. As your voice becomes more influential, more magnetic, your responsibility for its impact grows proportionally. The power paradox. Research shows a fascinating and sobering pattern. As people gain power and influence, they often become less attuned to others. Their listening decreases. Their empathy diminishes. The very skills that help them rise to leadership, including voice skills, are often deployed with less care and consciousness once power is achieved. I call this the power paradox. The more influence your voice carries, the more responsibility you have to use it wisely, yet the less likely you may be to recognize this responsibility. I witnessed this firsthand with a charismatic executive who had developed extraordinary vocal presence. Initially, his voice created remarkable trust and motivation among his team. But as his influence grew, subtle changes emerged. His interruptions increased. His questions became performative rather than curious. His tone carried unstated judgment. Eventually, his once magnetic voice became a tool that silenced others while appearing to invite their input, a particularly insidious form of vocal manipulation. The solution wasn't to diminish his vocal power, but to reconnect it to ethical purpose and practice. Let's explore how to ensure your magnetic voice serves as a force for positive impact. The 5 pillars of ethical voice. Developing an ethical voice requires attention to 5 foundational elements that together create not just influence, but positive leadership impact. Voice responsibility begins with impact awareness, the conscious recognition that your voice creates effects beyond your intention. Many leaders are shocked when they learn how their casual comments are received as definitive judgments or how their thinking aloud explorations are interpreted as firm decisions. Develop the habit of impact consideration, regularly reflecting on how your words will likely be received given your position and influence. Practice conscious voice calibration, adjusting your vocal approach based on power differentials in any interaction, and maintain feedback mechanisms that provide honest information about how your voice is actually experienced rather than how you intend it to be received. Listening Foundation establishes that ethical voice begins with ethical ears. This includes attention integrity, giving your full focus to others when they speak, rather than merely waiting for your turn. It requires scope permission, creating vocal and verbal space for others to fully express their thoughts without premature interruption or redirection. It depends on curiosity cultivation, developing genuine interest in perspectives different from your own. And it's enhanced by reflection demonstration, showing that you've truly heard and considered what others have shared before responding. Truth commitment combines accuracy, honesty, and context to create trustworthy communication. This includes verification discipline, the habit of confirming information before passing it along, especially when your voice carries the weight of authority. It requires certainty, calibration, clearly distinguishing between what you know with confidence and what remains uncertain or speculative, a distinction often conveyed primarily through vocal cues. It depends on completeness ethics, providing the context necessary for true understanding rather than selective facts that create misleading impressions. And it demands correction courage, the willingness to acknowledge and rectify mistakes quickly and transparently, a practice that paradoxically builds rather than diminishes your credibility. Dignity preservation ensures that your voice enhances rather than diminishes others' sense of worth and value. This includes humiliation, vigilance, a heightened awareness of how public correction or criticism can damage not just performance, but fundamental self-concept. It requires privacy discernment, understanding which matters should be addressed individually rather than in group settings, a boundary often crossed when efficiency is prioritized over dignity. It depends on strength acknowledgement, the vocal practice of recognizing others' contributions and capabilities, creating a foundation of respect within which challenges can be addressed constructively. And it demands recovery facilitation, using your voice to create pathways back from mistakes or failures, ensuring that critical feedback serves growth rather than defining limitation. Purpose. Alignment connects your voice to values and vision beyond immediate objectives. This includes contribution clarity, articulating how specific efforts connect to meaningful impact beyond metrics and targets. It requires values vocalization, regularly expressing the principles that guide decisions and priorities, making implicit values explicit through your speech. It depends on meaning amplification, finding and highlighting the deeper significance in seemingly routine work. And it demands vision translation, converting abstract aspirational language into concrete, vivid descriptions that create emotional connection to future possibilities. When these 5 pillars support your magnetic voice, your influence becomes not just powerful, but constructive, creating environments where others develop their own voices rather than merely following yours. 3 leadership voice modes. Different situations call for different aspects of ethical voice. Let's explore 3 specific modes that ethical leaders master and move between fluidly. The clarity voice creates shared understanding in complex or ambiguous situations. The foundation is precision without oversimplification, using concrete language and specific examples to illuminate complex ideas without reducing them to misleading simplicity. This requires conceptual scaffolding, building understanding progressively, creating vocal stages that move from foundational concepts to nuanced applications. It depends on assumption surfacing, explicitly naming the unstated beliefs or context that might otherwise create misalignment. And it's enhanced by question invitation, creating genuine openness to clarifying questions through both verbal and vocal cues that indicate questions are welcomed rather than tolerated. Exercise. Select a complex topic relevant to your team or organization. Create a 3-minute explanation that begins with a clear framework, moves through concrete examples, addresses potential misunderstandings, and explicitly invites questions. Record yourself and analyze whether your voice maintains engagement while building understanding progressively. The inspiration voice mobilizes energy and commitment towards shared goals. The core technique is purpose connection, linking immediate actions to meaningful outcomes through vocal energy that creates emotional resonance. This includes possibility expansion, using upward vocal inflections and enhanced resonance when describing future states, creating auditory openness that complements visionary content. It requires challenge acknowledgement, honestly addressing difficulties while maintaining vocal confidence that conveys achievability despite obstacles. And it depends on the we not I pattern, linguistic and vocal choices that emphasize collective capacity and shared journey rather than leader-centric achievement. Exercise. Identify a goal or initiative important to your team. Create a 1-minute inspiration message that connects immediate actions to meaningful purpose, acknowledges real challenges without diminishing confidence, and creates a sense of shared ownership. Chapter 11. Your magnetic legacy, the integrated voice. Imagine returning to that crowded room where we began our journey together, the constant buzz of conversation filling the air. But now, something has changed. As you begin to speak, the quality of attention shifts. People lean in, not because you're speaking loudly, but because your voice draws them closer through its magnetic pull. This isn't just a momentary connection, it's the foundation of your vocal legacy, the lasting impact your voice creates in the world. Throughout this audiobook, we've explored voice as instrument, technique, relationship, and influence. Now it's time to consider perhaps the most profound question of all. What will your voice leave behind? The integration paradox. Let me share an insight that might surprise you. After working with thousands of voices, from world leaders to kindergarten teachers, from celebrity performers to everyday parents, I've observed a fascinating pattern. The most impactful voices aren't necessarily the most polished, they're the most integrated. This creates what I call the integration paradox. The more seamlessly you weave together all dimensions of your voice, the less people notice your technique, and the more they connect with your essence. A CEO I worked with mastered this paradox beautifully. When she first came to me, she had already invested years in traditional voice training. Her diction was perfect, her projection powerful, her modulation precise. Yet something was missing. Her team respected her voice but didn't connect with it. They heard the skill but missed the person. Through our work together, she learned to integrate her professional authority with her natural warmth, her technical precision with her authentic humanity, her strategic communication with her spontaneous expressiveness. The change in how people responded to her was remarkable. Her team didn't just listen better, they trusted more deeply. They didn't just hear her words, they felt her intention. They didn't just follow her direction, they embraced her vision. This is the power of the fully integrated voice. Not just a collection of skills, but a unified expression of your whole self. Jiaqi, the 7 dimensions of voice integration. True mastery comes when you can move seamlessly through 7 critical dimensions of voice integration, creating a unified presence that transcends individual techniques. When fully developed, these dimensions don't operate separately, but function as a single, coherent expression of your authentic self. The first dimension is physical emotional integration, the seamless connection between your bodily state and emotional expression. This begins with body-voice congruence, where your physical alignment and vocal production perfectly mirror your emotional state, creating trust through consistency. It includes emotional accessibility, the ability to express authentic feelings without being overwhelmed by them, maintaining a balance of openness and containment. It requires somatic awareness, the capacity to notice how emotions manifest in your body and voice, using this knowledge to regulate your expression. And it depends on vulnerability calibration, sharing appropriate emotional depth for each context without defaulting to either constant guardedness or excessive disclosure. The master of physical emotional integration displays remarkable consistency across all communication contexts. Their voice doesn't suddenly become artificial in professional settings or uncontrolled in personal ones. Instead, they maintain authentic expression appropriately calibrated for each situation. The same person speaking through different aspects of the unified voice. This integration creates immediate trust because listeners sense no gap between the speaker's internal state and external expression. Exercise. The emotional spectrum challenges you to develop fluid movement through different emotional expressions while maintaining physical and vocal alignment. Begin by selecting 5 distinct emotions, perhaps confidence, compassion, enthusiasm, thoughtfulness, and determination. For each emotion, identify its physical signature. How does your posture change? Where do you feel tension or openness? What happens to your breathing pattern? Then identify its vocal signature. Which register predominates? How does your pace change? What happens to your resonance and articulation? Once you've mapped these signatures, practice transitioning smoothly between them, maintaining complete consistency between your physical and vocal expression for each state. The goal isn't acting or pretending, but rather accessing authentic aspects of yourself appropriate to different situations, expressing each with full physical vocal alignment. With practice, you'll develop the ability to move fluidly between emotional states while maintaining complete congruence between how you feel, how you hold your body, and how you sound. The second dimension is technical authentic integration, the harmonious blending of learned skills with natural expression. This includes technique transparency, where your vocal skills become so internalized they're invisible, supporting rather than obscuring your authentic expression. It requires personal adaptation, modifying standard techniques to honor your unique voice rather than forcing yourself into generic patterns. It depends on conscious spontaneity, the paradoxical ability to remain fully present and responsive while drawing on practiced skills. And it's enhanced by stylistic congruence, developing techniques that amplify rather than alter your natural communication style. The masters of technical authentic integration never sound trained, despite their considerable skill. Instead, technical development serves to remove obstacles that prevented their authentic voice from fully emerging. Their technical excellence doesn't call attention to itself, but rather creates a seamless channel for their genuine expression to reach others without distortion or limitation. This integration resolves the false dichotomy between being natural and being skilled, revealing them as complementary aspects of the same goal. Exercise. The technical transparency practice helps you incorporate vocal techniques so thoroughly that they disappear into your natural expression. Select one specific technique you've been working to develop, perhaps breath support, register flexibility, or prosodic variation. For 1 week, dedicate 10 minutes daily to focused practice of this technique in isolation, with full conscious attention to its mechanics. Then spend another 10 minutes immediately applying it in natural conversation, gradually releasing conscious focus on the technique while maintaining its benefits. Record both your technical practice and your conversational application. Listen for moments when the technique becomes transparent, where it supports your expression without calling attention to itself. Notice the factors that allow this integration to occur. Is it related to your level of engagement with the topic, your emotional state, your familiarity with your speaking partner? Identify the conditions that support your most integrated expression, and deliberately create more such opportunities in your daily communication. The third dimension is content delivery integration, the perfect alignment between what you say and how you say it. This begins with message-medium harmony, ensuring your vocal qualities perfectly complement your content, creating reinforcement rather than disconnection. It includes emphasis integrity, highlighting through vocal stress exactly what matters most in your message, creating a clear hierarchy of importance. It requires pacing attunement, matching your rate of speech precisely to the complexity and emotional weight of your content. And it depends on emotional congruence, expressing feelings that genuinely align with your message, rather than manufacturing affect for effect. Those who master content delivery integration achieve remarkable clarity and impact, because every aspect of their vocal delivery serves their message. Their pace naturally slows for complex concepts and accelerates for straightforward information. Their emphasis falls precisely where it should to guide understanding. Their emotional tone perfectly matches their content, serious for serious matters, warm for connection, enthusiastic for visionary possibilities. This alignment eliminates the cognitive dissonance that occurs when delivery contradicts content, allowing listeners to process information effortlessly. Exercise. The content delivery calibration helps you develop natural alignment between your message and your vocal expression. Select a passage containing a mix of complex ideas, straightforward information, emotional content, and key points that deserve emphasis. First, analyze the passage intellectually, marking where emphasis belongs, where pace should vary, and what emotional quality each section requires. Next, practice delivering it with deliberate attention to these elements. Finally, and most importantly, practice delivering it while focusing only on fully understanding and believing what you're saying, allowing your vocal expression to flow naturally from your engagement with the content. Record all three versions and compare them. The final version, where your focus is purely on the meaning, often integrates content and delivery most effectively, provided you've previously built the technical foundation. This exercise reveals the power of genuine understanding and conviction to naturally organize your vocal expression, creating organic integration that no amount of conscious technique can achieve. The fourth dimension is past-present integration, the harmonious relationship between your vocal heritage and your current expression. This includes pattern consciousness, awareness of inherited vocal patterns from family, culture, and early experiences that continue to influence your expression. It requires intentional selection, consciously choosing which acquired patterns to maintain, modify, or release based on their service to your authentic expression. It depends on heritage honoring, maintaining meaningful connection to your vocal roots while evolving your own distinctive voice. And it's enhanced by history transcendence, the ability to move beyond limiting historical patterns without rejecting the foundations that shaped you. Those who achieve past-present integration display fascinating vocal depth, a unique sound grounded in their heritage, yet distinctly their own. They neither reject their vocal origins in pursuit of some idealized, perfect voice, nor remain trapped in inherited patterns that limit their expression. Instead, they maintain conscious relationship with their vocal lineage, allowing it to provide foundation while continually evolving their personal expression. This integration creates voices of remarkable authenticity, simultaneously connected to something larger than themselves, yet unmistakably individual. Exercise. The vocal lineage. Exploration helps you develop conscious relationship with your vocal heritage. Begin by creating a vocal family tree, recording observations about the distinctive vocal patterns of your parents, grandparents, and other significant influences. Note specific qualities like register preferences, prosodic patterns, pace tendencies, and emotional expression habits. Then record yourself in conversation and listen for echoes of these patterns in your own voice. Which serve you well? Which limit your expression? Create a deliberate integration plan, identifying patterns to maintain, modify, or release. For patterns you wish to maintain, practice using them with conscious appreciation, acknowledging their value in connecting you to your roots. For patterns you wish to modify, develop hybrid approaches that honor their essence while better serving your current needs. For patterns you wish to release, develop replacement habits that better express your authentic self, while acknowledging with gratitude the foundation these patterns provided in your development. This practice transforms unconscious inheritance into conscious integration, giving you authorship of your voice while maintaining connection to your origins. The fifth dimension is personal cultural integration, the balance between your individual voice and your cultural context. This includes cultural code switching, the ability to shift between different cultural vocal patterns while maintaining personal authenticity. It requires contextual adaptation, modifying your expression to honor diverse environments without compromising your core identity. It depends on universal particular balance, expressing both the universal human experiences that connect us all and the particular cultural perspectives that provide unique insight. And it's enhanced by boundary wisdom, knowing when to adapt to cultural expectations and when to maintain distinctive expression that might challenge norms. The masters of personal cultural integration move fluidly between different contexts while maintaining core authenticity. They can adapt to various cultural settings without feeling forced or artificial because they integrate rather than merely switch between aspects of themselves. This capacity becomes increasingly valuable in our globally connected world, where rigid adherence to a single cultural pattern limits connection, yet abandoning personal authenticity creates distrust. The integrated voice finds the balance, adapting without abandoning essence. Exercise. The cultural voice mapping practice helps you develop conscious relationship with different cultural vocal contexts. Identify 3 distinct cultural or subcultural environments you regularly navigate, perhaps professional, family and social circles, or different regional or ethnic contexts. For each, note the specific vocal patterns typical of that environment. Register preferences, pace expectations, emotional expression norms, vocabulary patterns. Then record yourself speaking in each context and analyze how your voice changes. Which adaptations feel authentic and which create internal disconnection. For adaptations that feel inauthentic, develop integration strategies that honor both the cultural context and your personal voice. These might include finding alternative ways to show respect beyond mimicking exactly, explicitly naming cultural differences in appropriate settings, or gradually introducing elements of your authentic expression into environments where you felt constrained. The goal isn't rigid consistency across all contexts, but rather fluid integration that honors both your unique voice and the diverse communities you inhabit. The sixth dimension is intrapersonal integration, the harmony between how you speak to others and how you speak to yourself. This includes internal-external consistency, alignment between your self-talk and your expressed voice, creating trustworthiness through congruence. It requires self-compassion extension, offering others the same vocal qualities of understanding and support that you're developing toward yourself. It depends on projection awareness, recognizing when your speech to others reflects your internal dialogue rather than their actual needs or nature. And it's enhanced by feedback incorporation, using external responses to refine both your expressed voice and your internal voice. Those who master this dimension display remarkable integrity in the original sense of the word. Wholeness. There's no significant gap between how they speak to themselves and how they speak to others. This integration resolves many communication challenges that stem from projection, speaking to others in ways that reflect internal battles rather than present relationships. As your internal voice becomes more balanced, neither harshly critical nor falsely positive, your external voice naturally develops similar qualities of honesty, compassion, and clarity. Exercise. The mirror voice practice develops awareness of the relationship between your internal and external voice. For 1 week, pay careful attention to your self-talk patterns, the specific voice of your inner dialogue. Notice its typical register, pacing, emotional tone, and the nature of its commentary. Is it predominantly critical or supportive? Fast or measured? Emotional or detached? Then record several conversations with others and listen analytically, comparing the qualities of your expressed voice with your internal voice. Note areas of alignment and disconnection. Where you find significant gaps between internal and external voice qualities, develop integration practices. If your self-talk is harsher than how you'd speak to others, practice extending to yourself the same compassionate tone you offer friends. If your self-talk lacks the structure and clarity you bring to professional communication, practice presenting complex issues to yourself with the same organized approach. This practice gradually aligns your internal and external voices, creating remarkable continuity between your private and public self. The seventh dimension is legacy integration, the conscious development of how your voice will influence beyond immediate interactions. This includes temporal expansion, considering how your voice impacts not just the present moment, but future possibilities. It requires values vocalization, consistently expressing through vocal qualities the core principles you want to strengthen in the world. It depends on energy calibration, managing the lasting energetic imprint your voice creates in environments and relationships. And it's enhanced by model consciousness, awareness of how your voice patterns become templates that others consciously or unconsciously adopt. Those who integrate this dimension speak with profound intention, recognizing that each vocal exchange creates ripples extending far beyond the immediate conversation. They understand that their voice does more than communicate information. It transmits values, shapes environments, and influences how others speak, both to them and to third parties. This awareness leads to both greater responsibility and greater possibility in how they use their voice as an instrument of lasting impact. Exercise, the legacy voice. Visualization helps you align your current vocal patterns with your desired long-term impact. Begin by writing a detailed description of the voice you wish to be remembered for, not just its technical qualities, but its effect on others and the values it embodies. What would you want people to say about how your voice made them feel? What qualities would you want them to have experienced through your voice? What lasting impact would your voice have created in their lives? With this vision as foundation, develop a daily integration practice. Before important conversations, briefly visualize your legacy voice and set intention to embody its qualities. After significant interactions, reflect on alignment, where your actual voice expressed your legacy intentions and where disconnects occurred. This practice gradually brings your moment-to-moment vocal choices into harmony with your desired long-term impact, ensuring that your immediate expression builds toward your ultimate vocal legacy. The 3 stages of voice mastery. As you integrate these dimensions, you'll move through 3 distinct stages of voice mastery, each representing a deeper level of embodiment and impact. These aren't rigid categories, but rather points along a continuous journey of development. The technical master has developed exceptional skill across all the foundational elements we've explored in this audiobook. They demonstrate breath control that supports sustained speech without effort. Their register flexibility allows movement through their full range with ease. Their prosodic mastery creates engagement through varied intonation patterns. Their pace control matches perfectly to content and context. Their volume dynamics create emphasis without strain. At this stage, conscious technique still requires some attention, but skills are reliable and consistent across various conditions. The hallmark of this stage is reliability. The voice performs as intended in most circumstances with deliberate attention. The technical master rarely experiences voice failures and can adapt to challenging acoustic environments or content demands. Their voice serves them well as a consciously developed instrument. Most professional voice users, broadcasters, actors, proficient public speakers, operate primarily at this level, which represents significant achievement and typically results from years of dedicated practice. The integrated communicator has moved beyond technique to develop seamless connection between their voice and their whole being. Their breath becomes not just a technical support, but a natural extension of their emotional state and intentions. Their register shifts flow organically from their relationship to content and audience rather than conscious choice. Their prosody emerges directly from meaning rather than applied technique. Their pace adjusts intuitively to listener comprehension needs. Their volume variation occurs without conscious management. At this stage, technique has become so internalized that attention focuses entirely on connection and meaning rather than vocal mechanics. The hallmark of this stage is naturalness. Vocal expression flows without conscious technical management, even in challenging situations. The integrated communicator's voice remains authentic and effective even under stress, in conflict, or during complex communication tasks. Their voice has moved from being an instrument they play to being an integrated aspect of their self-expression. Many exceptional leaders, master teachers, and transformative speakers operate from this level, where voice becomes transparent to purpose and connection. The transformative presence has evolved beyond individual mastery to develop voice as a vehicle for positive impact beyond themselves. Their breath creates a field of calm that affects the entire room. Their register carries frequencies that resonate with listeners at subtle levels beyond conscious awareness. Their prosody does more than maintain interest. It creates shifts in emotional and mental states that open new possibilities. Their pace establishes rhythms that bring groups into coherence. Their volume variations create emphasis through contrast rather than force. At this stage, voice becomes not just personal expression, but a force for transformation in relationships, groups, and even larger systems. The hallmark of this stage is impact beyond intention. Their voice creates positive effects beyond what they consciously planned or designed. The transformative presence speaks from profound integration of all 7 dimensions, creating an authentic power that influences at multiple levels simultaneously. Their voice doesn't just communicate, it catalyzes growth, healing, and possibility in those who hear it. The rare individuals who achieve this level, certain spiritual teachers, exceptional therapists, transformative public figures, demonstrate what becomes possible when voice development continues beyond technical excellence into the realm of integrated purpose and presence. This progression reminds us that voice development is not a finite project with a clear endpoint, but rather a lifelong journey of deepening integration and expanding impact. The most exciting aspect of this work is that each stage builds upon rather than replaces the previous one, creating a continuous path of growth extending far beyond the techniques we've explored together. The 5 practices of lifelong voice development. To continue your journey of voice integration long after you finish this audiobook, I offer 5 core practices that, when maintained over time, create ongoing development and prevent regression to previous patterns. The first is deliberate integration practice, regularly scheduled sessions that specifically focus on weaving together different aspects of your voice. Unlike focused technique practice that isolates specific skills, integration practice deliberately combines multiple elements simultaneously. Begin with a weekly 30-minute session where you work with the voice journal entries, speaking aloud about meaningful experiences while simultaneously attending to technical elements, authentic expression, emotional alignment, and impact intention. Record these sessions and listen analytically for moments of full integration versus fragmentation. Over time, you'll develop an intuitive sense for the feeling of complete integration when all aspects of your voice align in service of meaningful expression. The power of this practice lies in conscious coordination of elements that initially required separate attention. Just as a pianist eventually plays melody, harmony, and rhythm simultaneously without conscious management of each element, you'll develop the ability to express content, emotion, connection, and purpose through a fully integrated voice that requires no compartmentalized attention to technique. The key is regularity, maintaining this practice even as your voice develops, using it as ongoing integration maintenance rather than abandoning it once basic competence emerges. The second practice is environmental voice fitness, deliberately exposing yourself to varied communication environments that stretch different aspects of your voice. Most of us develop voice patterns optimized for our typical settings, creating significant challenges when we encounter unfamiliar contexts. Counter this tendency by regularly placing yourself in diverse voice environments. Speak in both intimate and large group settings. Practice in both acoustically supportive and challenging spaces. Engage with both familiar and unfamiliar audiences. Experience both formal and informal speaking contexts. Each environment develops different aspects of your voice and tests your integration under varying conditions. Create an environmental rotation plan that ensures regular exposure to at least 3 different speaking contexts each month, including at least one that stretches you beyond your comfort zone. After each experience, reflect specifically on which aspects of your voice maintained integration and which fragmented under the environmental pressure. This practice develops your voice much like cross-training develops an athlete's body, creating flexibility, adaptability, and resilience that specialized training alone cannot achieve. Over time, your voice becomes environment independent, maintaining its essential qualities regardless of external conditions. The third practice is feedback integration, systematically incorporating diverse perspectives on your voice impact. Our own perception of our voice is inherently limited, filtered through internal hearing mechanisms and subjective experience. Counterbalance this limitation by establishing regular feedback channels from varied sources. Technical feedback from instructors or coaches who can assess specific vocal elements. Impact feedback from trusted colleagues or friends who can describe how your voice affects them emotionally and psychologically. Recorded feedback from audio and video documentation that captures your voice as others hear it. Somatic feedback from your own body about tension, effort, or ease in your vocal production. Develop a feedback integration protocol that helps you synthesize these diverse perspectives without becoming overwhelmed. Consider quarterly voice reviews where you gather feedback from multiple sources, identify patterns and themes, and develop specific integration practices based on what you discover. This practice prevents the common pattern of developing blind spots, areas where our self-perception drastically differs from our actual impact. By maintaining regular feedback loops, your voice development remains grounded in reality rather than aspiration or assumption. The fourth practice is voice-life alignment, consciously connecting voice development to your broader life purpose and values. Voice doesn't exist in isolation from who you are and what you care about. This practice involves regular reflection on how your voice serves what matters most to you. How does your voice express your core values? How does it contribute to your most important relationships? How does it advance the causes or work you care about? How does it resolve the challenges you face? By explicitly connecting voice development to meaningful life dimensions, you create powerful motivation for continued growth and integration. Create a voice purpose statement that articulates how your voice serves your larger life intentions. Review and revise this statement annually, tracking how your understanding evolves and how your voice progressively aligns with your deepest purposes. This practice transforms voice development from a technical project into a meaningful expression of your unique contribution to the world, sustaining your commitment through the inevitable challenges of continued growth. The fifth practice is transmission engagement, participating in the process of sharing voice wisdom with others. Something remarkable happens when we begin to share what we've learned. Our own understanding deepens, our commitment strengthens, and our awareness sharpens. This doesn't mean you must become a professional voice coach, but rather that you consciously participate in the transmission of voice wisdom through various means, offering specific, supportive feedback to others about effective aspects of their voice. Sharing techniques or insights that have helped you when appropriate and welcome. Modeling integrated voice in your daily interactions. Creating environments that encourage authentic vocal expression in groups you're part of. Each act of transmission simultaneously contributes to others and deepens your own integration. Look for natural opportunities to engage in transmission within your existing roles and relationships. Parents can consciously develop their children's voice awareness while refining their own. Team leaders can incorporate voice development into communication practices while continuing their personal growth. Friends can offer each other specific appreciation for effective voice qualities, strengthening both the relationship and their individual development. This practice connects you to the larger lineage of voice wisdom passed through generations, allowing you to both receive and contribute to this essential human tradition. Together, these 5 practices create a sustainable structure for lifelong voice development, preventing the common pattern of initial growth followed by plateau or regression. By maintaining deliberate integration practice, exposing yourself to diverse environments, Incorporating varied feedback, aligning voice with purpose, and engaging in transmission, you establish a self-reinforcing cycle of continuous growth that can extend throughout your lifetime. The voice integration paradoxes. As we approach the conclusion of our journey together, I want to share 3 fundamental paradoxes of voice development that, when embraced rather than resolved, create the conditions for your most powerful and authentic expression. The first is the effort-ease paradox. The most effective voice requires both dedicated technical work and complete natural spontaneity. Many voice students get trapped on one side of this paradox, either constantly straining to apply techniques or rejecting technique entirely in favor of just being natural. The integrated approach recognizes that these apparently contradictory elements actually complement each other. Technical practice creates the foundation that allows spontaneity to express itself fully, rather than being limited by unnecessary constraints. True mastery emerges when you've done the technical work so thoroughly that you can completely release it in the moment of expression, accessing effortless spontaneity supported by established skill. The resolution comes through understanding that effort and ease exist in a sequential rather than simultaneous relationship. You apply focused effort during practice and preparation so that you can access complete ease during actual communication. The preparation creates capacity that expresses itself without conscious management in the moment of speaking. By honoring both sides of this paradox, committing to rigorous practice and then completely releasing technique during expression, you develop a voice that is simultaneously skilled and natural, prepared and spontaneous, worked and effortless. The second is the personal universal paradox. The more authentically individual your voice becomes, the more universally it connects with others. Many voice students worry that developing their unique voice will limit their ability to connect broadly across different audiences. They mistakenly attempt to develop a neutral voice devoid of distinctive qualities, hoping this will allow maximum connection. The integrated approach recognizes that the opposite is true. Your most universal connection comes precisely through your most authentic personal expression. The qualities that make your voice uniquely yours, your particular combination of timbral colors, your distinctive prosodic patterns, your characteristic rhythms, are exactly what create memorable connection with listeners. The resolution comes through recognizing that beneath surface differences, human beings share fundamental emotional and social needs. When you speak from your authentic center with technical skill, listeners respond not just to your words, but to the genuine human presence they sense through your voice. Your particular expression becomes a unique gateway to universal human experience. By fully developing the distinctive qualities of your voice rather than suppressing them, you paradoxically create broader and deeper connection with diverse listeners who respond to the authenticity they recognize beneath the particularity. The third is the consciousness-spontaneity paradox. Developing your most powerful voice requires both deliberate, conscious attention and complete immersion in the moment. Many voice students oscillate between overthinking their voice, creating self-consciousness that blocks natural expression, and ignoring technique entirely, limiting their effectiveness through unconscious habits. The integrated approach recognizes that consciousness and spontaneity serve each other. Focused attention during practice creates the conditions for unself-conscious expression during communication. The most magnetic voices result from extensive conscious development, followed by complete presence in the moment of speaking. The resolution comes through understanding that consciousness and spontaneity operate in different phases of the development cycle. Conscious attention belongs primarily in practice, analysis, and reflection, while spontaneity dominates in actual communication. You develop technique with full awareness, then trust it to serve you while your attention shifts entirely to connection and meaning during speaking. Over time, these phases begin to overlap. You can make micro adjustments during speech without losing presence, and your practice becomes more intuitive while remaining deliberate. This creates the seemingly paradoxical quality of conscious spontaneity that characterizes mastery in any art form. By embracing rather than trying to resolve these paradoxes, you open yourself to the full potential of your magnetic voice. You recognize that apparent contradictions, effort and ease, personal and universal, consciousness and spontaneity, are actually complementary forces, creating the dynamic tension that generates your most powerful expression. The integrated voice emerges not from choosing one side of these paradoxes, but from dancing in the creative space between them. Your magnetic legacy. As we complete our journey together, I invite you to consider the legacy your voice will create, not just in formal presentations or professional contexts, but across the full spectrum of your life's communications. Every day, your voice leaves lasting impressions that extend far beyond the moment of speaking. What impressions do you want to create? What impact do you want your voice to have on those who hear it? What memories do you want it to leave behind? Perhaps you want to be remembered for a voice that made others feel truly heard and valued in conversation, or a voice that brought clarity to complex situations when confusion threatened progress. Maybe you aspire to a voice that inspired courage and possibility when challenges seemed insurmountable, or one that offered comfort and perspective during times of suffering. You might want to create a legacy of truth-telling, a voice that spoke honestly even when truth was difficult, or a legacy of inclusion, a voice that created belonging for those who often felt marginalized. Whatever legacy you choose to create, it begins with the intention you set and the practices you maintain. Your magnetic voice emerges not from a single transformative moment, but from thousands of small choices, daily decisions to breathe fully, to speak authentically, to listen deeply, to expand your range, to align your technique with your purpose. Each choice, however minor it might seem in the moment, contributes to the voice that becomes your gift to the world. I believe that voice development is ultimately an act of love. Love for those you speak with, love for the ideas and values you express, and love for the unique instrument that is your birthright. When you develop your voice with this spirit, the technical elements we've explored transform from mere skills into expressions of who you truly are and what you care about most deeply. Your magnetic voice becomes not a performance, but a presence, a genuine extension of your humanity reaching out to connect with others. As you continue your journey beyond the pages of this audiobook, remember that your voice matters. In a world increasingly mediated by screens and algorithms, the direct human connection created by voice becomes ever more precious and powerful. Your willingness to develop this fundamental instrument of connection isn't just a personal enhancement. It's a contribution to the quality of human relationship in your family, your community, and beyond. Speak in a way that matters. Speak in a way that resonates with those who hear you. Speak in a way that honors your unique perspective while creating bridges of understanding to others. This is your birthright and your opportunity. Your voice matters. Use it well. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. May your voice create the legacy of connection, impact, and meaning that you most deeply desire.